Welcome to the 5th Annual Women Business and Wellness Conference, sponsored by Wells Fargo Bank and Coca-Cola. This year's digital conference is supported by the Inland Empire Women's Business Center, the National Association of Women Business Owners Inland Empire Chapter, the American Heart Association, and Pair.com. The 5th Annual Women Business and Wellness Conference is a production of InlandValleyLiving.com, a product of Hispanic Lifestyle. Please use the hashtag WBWC2020 and feel free to post your comments on your favorite social media platform. All our speakers' profiles and the event program can be found online at InlandValleyLiving.com. Ladies and gentlemen, here to welcome you on behalf of InlandValleyLiving.com and Hispanic Lifestyle is Gabriela Sandoval.
Welcome to the 5th Annual Women Business and Wellness Conference. I am Gabriela Sandoval with Hispanic Lifestyle. Our conference is truly a digital experience packed with presentations from women with diverse backgrounds willing to share their insights with you. Thank you for spending the time with us today and take lots of notes. Representing Wells Fargo Bank, our presenting sponsor is Jamie Lee, Vice President and District Manager of the San Bernardino Heights region.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. It is such an honor to welcome you to the 5th Annual Women's Business and Wellness Conference. This year, of course, we're going digital. I am sincere when I say it's an honor to welcome all of you. In reviewing today's program, I was inspired and proud to see such a talented and diverse group of presenters. I believe as women, we are natural-born multitaskers, project managers, and wear many different hats. At Wells Fargo, I lead 138 community banking employees in San Bernardino and Riverside County. In addition to being a leader, mentor, and corporate citizen, I'm a wife and a mom. This year has thrown major overlapping events across our journeys. And for me, personally challenged the way I approach being a leader, mentor, corporate citizen, wife, and mom. Against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic that was rapidly changing the way we live our daily lives and run our businesses, we also had a national election. This summer's social unrest and protests placed a mirror over the country that reflected the undeniable realities none of us can look away from. Institutional racism and racial inequality persists in our communities across our country. I don't want to presume to know exactly how this year's events have affected each of you. Our journeys are all different. One thing we have in common, though, is that we're all here virtually together. To me, that shows that we have a deep vested interest in gaining knowledge, insights, and resources. And maybe a nice boost of morale that will help give us the confidence to make informed decisions in the new normal that's ahead. Knowing that so many diverse and talented women are educating themselves on the economy, finance, and wellness gives me hope that the decisions you make next year will empower those around you to also make informed decisions and those around them as well. So as I said earlier, it's such an honor to welcome all of you here today. It's the leaders, entrepreneurs, mentors, moms, sisters, daughters, and friends like you that are making the future even brighter for our communities. Thank you again for taking the time to be here today and investing in your future. I'd also like to thank Richard Sandoval and Hispanic Lifestyles for the longtime collaboration and for hosting today's virtual event. Thank you, Richard.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joanne Landa, Senior Investment Strategist with Wells Fargo Private Bank. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I am so excited to be able to share some thoughts on what we're seeing in the economy, the markets, and really creating and preserving wealth for 2021. I think it's fair to say that 2020 has been a time for stress testing. We've experienced pandemics, fires, floods, civil unrest, polarized politics, market bulls and bears, and economic recessions and recovery. And quite frankly, the year isn't over yet. So it's not without surprise that we are all looking at 2021, what it holds for us, with maybe a bit of caution, as well as maybe a little bit of exhaustion as well. So, but just take pause and look at what we've all just come through this year. And when we look at what is in store for us for 2021 in the new year, take comfort in what you have just weathered, and a very difficult situation, a very difficult year, and that experience is priceless. So what I'd like to transition and talk about, a couple of things in our time together, is I want to talk about the economy and the markets and some of the opportunities that we're seeing going forward, but also about how to evaluate what your personal situations are, your business situations, your risk tolerance, and really how do you combine those to take advantage of what's going on in the economy and the market. So we'll go over to our first slide here, and we can take a look at some context of what's going on in the economy. So although the pressures I just mentioned may continue to have some longer term implications, we are seeing some opportunities going into the next year. So just to give you a sense, we're seeing for 2020, we see global GDP growth coming in at a negative 3.1%, and US GDP growth coming in at a negative 3.7%. So let's contrast that into what we're seeing for 2021. So we're looking at increased expansion into next year, and the pace for global growth, we're looking or anticipating at about a 5.2%, and US GDP growth at a 3.8%. So our outlook going into next year really is, we believe that there are investment opportunities to take advantage of that. Going into 2021, there will continue to be a push and pull with economic data. So our next slide covers some of that information. So we do anticipate moderate growth in 2021, but it will be uneven. So there will be some bumps along the ways, and there will be a separation between different sectors and different economies some will be very strong and some will actually lag a little bit. So as the US overcomes its pandemic threat, the US will remain on the leading edge of recovery along with China. Europe's economy should gain momentum after the winter surge of the COVID infections decrease a little bit. And among the emerging economies, China should lead the way, while some other emerging economies will have some strong rebounds, but we think Latin American economies will lag. Even with the US on the leading edge of the economy, we expect further US dollar declines, mainly against the euro, as the Federal Reserve, this is really an impact of what the Federal Reserve is doing here in the US by adding more money and stimulus, both in terms of keeping interest rates very low, but also in terms of their continual securities buyback process. So in all, we do see gradually a broadening global economic recovery and a weakening dollar, and those two combinations should support global asset markets over the course of the year. So in terms of equity, the drop we experienced in the spring with the beginning of the pandemic brought the longest bull market that we've had in the US to a close. So moving forward, broadening economic conditions should mean we see an earnings rebound that could support equities prices going even higher. We favor US over international equities and but we still continue to recommend going higher quality which is a shift to be made in 2020. And we continue to see that as a place of opportunity in 2021. So looking at higher quality investments. Additionally, we do see some opportunities in more traditional cyclical sectors, and especially those, as I mentioned, with higher quality characteristics. As some uncertainties ease in 2021, we do expect moderately higher interest rates, but the economy's slow pace should prevent interest rates to return to historical levels. So we're still going to be low in that aspect. These historically lower rates should add to high demand for yield. And in searching for that yield, we prefer credit opportunities and would use active managers in those areas, meaning if you're looking at high yield or preferred stock where you're taking a little bit more risk to get that yield, using active managers rather than looking at individual securities there. We also favor tax advantage municipal bonds, including high yield municipal bonds, especially for those that are in the higher tax brackets. For real assets, so think of real estate as well as commodities, anything tangible we identify as a real asset. It's a mixed bag here. So we believe that commodities may see a bounce as they experience a rebound in demand. So think of oil prices, how they've been fairly low for quite some time. And with the global recession, there's been a little bit lower demand. But as we move forward into 2020 and demand increases, we could see some prices stabilize and move up slightly. But with real estate, it's a little bit of a different story. Real estate investment trusts, or REITs, should continue to face headwinds in the coming year as really they're coping with these post-pandemic realities as far as what occupancy levels will be, what geographic impacts will have across the country. And finally, for alternative investments, we believe that investors should gravitate towards hedge funds and private capital portfolios that are more focused on themes coming out of the COVID pandemic crisis. So often sectors facing the biggest challenges through these crises can support the best long-term investment opportunities. And so hedge funds and private capital are in a place to be able to benefit from that. So that was an overview of the US and global economy, some of the investment markets. But what does this really mean to any of you as personal investors, as well as business owners and managers? So one of the things that is really important is how do you take advantage of this data and the information that the market is sharing with us? But before we dive into, is it XYZ company or is it that bond? What's most important is that you really look at why you own something versus what you own. So a large part of successful investing is really first to identify what your goals and objectives are as an individual, as well as a business owner, or for the business in general. Because if you don't have that structure around what you own, doesn't necessarily, you can't identify what it's going to do for you in order to achieving those goals. So behavioral finance is a study that's been around for the last few decades. It's catching a lot of wind over the last 10 years, and it really helps address the emotional aspect of how people invest. And during a pandemic, I can't think of a better time to really revisit this and look at what some of the benefits of behavioral finance is. So by establishing your goals and objectives first, when you evaluate a new investment or rebalancing an existing one, the structure of your goals and objectives give you a framework to identify how much or little risk you're willing to take, or when you're reaching for those higher returns, or where to put your next new dollar. If you're already heavily invested in stocks and say collectibles, but you don't have any cash available or any retirement savings, when the economy enters into a recession, you may have a difficulty emotionally staying your investment course because you don't have access to that liquidity that you may need when things get difficult. On the other hand, if you're too conservative or you have a large emergency fund, you may never be able to have may never be in a position to have your assets grow for you, and you may never create more wealth for you or your business or your family. So that's important to look at the balance between all of those. Once your longer term goals are in place, it can be helpful to make longer term strategic changes across your asset mixes, as well as shorter term, and we were define shorter term tactical shifts as say 12 to 18 month opportunities. So you want to look at both sides of those. And so some of the highlights of where we currently are seeing market opportunities are, and so once your longer term goals are in place, it can be helpful to make both longer term strategic changes in your asset mix, as well as shorter term or tactical changes. And we see the tactical is more of a 12 to 18 month opportunity, and strategic is beyond that in terms of a timeline. So we encourage investors to do both of those in rebalancing and evaluating what their wealth strategies are and investment strategies are going forward. So currently, what we're seeing some opportunities here in the marketplace and the economy are highlighted here in our next slide. And so just to give you an overview, a lot of people, when things get difficult, they want to hold a lot of cash. But if you're paying attention to where interest rates are on your bank deposits or short-term treasuries, really you're not earning any interest rates. So you want to be careful that you don't have too much cash on the sideline, but enough to take advantage of opportunities in the future. We're also, as I mentioned, still positive on equities, but really focusing on US large and mid-cap opportunities, and underweighting other areas such as some of the international markets. So what you're seeing here in these reference is just some tactical shifts that we are anticipating where we see opportunities for 2021. And it's an example of how both the market, the economic data, and your personal or business situation should come together to allow you to make those changes within the portfolio. So just to summarize, when we think about portfolios, we really do believe that it's better to be proactive than to be reactive. And so right now, as I mentioned, hold some cash, but not too much, so that you are available to take advantage of the opportunities in the coming year, and just selectively increase risk as the economy improves. And then the last thing in terms of some of the opportunities is looking at diversifying your streams of income. So what does that mean in terms of portfolio? So looking at interest coming from taxable bonds as well as tax-free municipals, cash flow coming from high yield bonds, cash flow coming from dividends. So if all of your income streams are coming from one place, for example, your US Treasuries, maybe you want to diversify and see what other assets can provide you with cash flow as well as we go into 2021. So one of the last thing I just wanted to leave you with for more ideas on how to be proactive as we move into 2021, please feel free to download our Wells Fargo Investment Institute special report for 2021. It's named Forging a Path Forward, and that is available mid-December. So I'd like to thank you all again for including me in this wonderful event. It's been both a pleasure and an honor, and best wishes for a healthy and a prosperous 2021. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Cece, and I'm the owner of Inner Healthcare Colonics. And I'm super excited to be here and chatting with all of you today. And I have been asked to speak about something that is so close to my heart and my soul, and that's inner health. I was somebody who fell apart very young, and I had to find my way back to good health. And the way I found it was through my own inner health. So I just want to give you guys a few tips. First and foremost, let's remember this. Our health, my health, is my responsibility. We can't put it to the doctors. We can't put it to the husband or the wife. It is our responsibility. And when I owned that responsibility, I started finding answers. The other thing is, we have to be so mindful that so much of our good health or bad begins in the gut. The gut is vital to our health. Why do I say that? Because the gut and the brain are connected. The gut and the immune system are connected. If we cannot separate them, if we wanted to, if you don't believe me, go and check some anatomy and physiology, and you will see that these are functioning together. So if my gut is in good health, the rest of my body will function much, much better. The other tip, here it is, guys. We have to hydrate. We have to hydrate. You know, and drinking coffee is not hydration. And drinking tea is not hydration. We need water. Water. Our body's 70% water. And if we are not drinking enough water, I tell my clients we're pruning inside. And I don't like that look. So remember, we have to drink water. And during these challenging health times, I must bring this up. We need to be proactive about our health and not reactive. We're hearing so much out there. We're hearing about vaccines. We're hearing about staying shut down. We're hearing a lot of fear. And you know, truly what I want to share with you, it's really about the answer, in my understanding, is that we need to build our immune system so we can weather these challenging times. It's really important that we become aware and mindful daily that our health is our responsibility. And once you do take responsibility and you start doing what you need to do for your body really, really does love to take care of yourself. It really helps us so much. And I want to thank Richard for allowing me to come in this conference and being part of this. I believe in his vision, and I love helping other people. And when I get an opportunity to share with other men and women that our health is our responsibility, I get excited. I really want you to take this information, chew it up, absorb it. And after you hear it and absorb it and digest it, take action. Because we go to a lot of conferences, we hear a lot of people talk. You know, now there's podcasts here and podcasts there, and you're always listening. But you know what? If you don't take action, let me tell you, ain't nothing gonna change. So you're gonna stay in fear, you're gonna stay in confusion. But if you're sick of being there, you need to take action. You need to do what you need to do. Remember, our body is our temple, and our temple is important. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me and allowing me to share some inner health care tips.
De todos los momentos que comparte con su mejor amiga, el mejor podría ser el momento en que le salva la vida a ella. Cada segundo cuenta en un paro cardíaco. Aprenda RCP usando solo las manos y sea la diferencia para alguien que ama.
Hi, my name is Michelle Skilgen. I'm fortunate to have been part of the 5th annual Women Business and Wellness Conference since the beginning. So thank you, Richard, for having me back. I'm also fortunate to serve as the Executive Director of the Inland Empire and Coachella Valley Women's Business Centers. The Women's Business Centers are a program of the Inland Empire Center for Entrepreneurship, which is at Cal State University, San Bernardino. We are also partially funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration and GoBiz. Without them, our program would not exist. Today, I'm here to talk to you about the power of positive choices, because I believe and have lived the importance of positivity in business, but also as it relates to your wellness and your well-being. So today, we're going to talk about why it is important. We're going to talk about self-assessments. We're going to talk about common negativities, and then we're going to talk about tools for positivity. Something to think about when it comes to really anything, but especially positivity, is how much you put into it is how much you get out of it. Just happened to see this image one time and it just spoke to me. So it does take some work to be positive, but you will reap the rewards of the work you put in. So why is positivity important? Research from the University of Chicago compared unhappy people, but matched on other criteria such as education, experience, and skills, and they found that happier people get better jobs. Those jobs have more autonomy, variety, and meaning. Happier CEOs, and as small business owners, or all CEOs, have happier people working for them, and happier people make more money. Beyond that, happier people have better health, improved physical and mental health. They have lower blood pressure in general. Now, don't stop taking your blood pressure medicine, but do continue to be happy. They have lower cardiovascular disease, heal and recover faster, stronger immune systems. Happier people generally have better health. They have greater success. So happier people can be more successful, make good decisions, earn more, enjoy better mental health, have a more positive perception of themselves, are likable and cooperative. Very important as a business owner, because what's that saying? People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And happier people have higher energy. Last is longer lives. I don't know about you, but I want to live as long as possible, as long as I'm happy and healthy. But they say happier people live on average 12 years longer. I think that's exciting news. And there's a link here for you to go and get additional information. And as you see throughout the PowerPoint, I've got links to additional information. So here's some more. So some great articles on why positivity is important. When you Google positivity, it is just all over the place how important it is in life and in business. But let's say you want to understand, where am I at in the positivity ratio? Well, one of the great authors out there, Barbara Fredrickson, has this great 2-minute online quiz that you can go and take. And she's got other resources on her website in addition to that. What she recommends with this particular quiz is that you take it every day for 2 weeks. And so you can really gain an understanding. And she, like I said, she's got lots of resources to help you. Another area where you can go and do self-assessments is through the University of Pennsylvania. And they have a lot of assessments on their Authentic Happiness site. And so you can go in there, you can take tests, you can take these assessments, figure out where you're at, determine where you want to go, and just keep working on your positivity. One of my favorite quotes is from William James, and that is that the greatest discovery of my generation is that man and woman, of course, can alter his or her life simply by altering his or her attitude of mind. So this is a positivity workshop, but we got to talk a little bit about negativity, and those are the negative traits. So do I have any perfectionists in the room besides myself? recovering perfectionist? How about negative self-talk, that little voice that tells you what you're doing wrong? Comparison, catastrophizing, exaggeration of a mistake or failure, setting high expectations of yourself or others. Not that expectations aren't good, but you've got to set smart goals. Letting a past occurrence influence what you achieve today, or basing your approval on others' love and acceptance. Now, there are many negative traits beyond this. These happen to be some of the highest. But in order for us to improve, we have to determine what is the one negative trait that I'm going to work on for myself. How do okay, we're at the end of the year. January 1, I want to improve. So what I call it is my opportunity to improve. What is my opportunity to improve? Maybe it's to not be such a perfectionist. Maybe work on scaling that back, or taming the inner saboteur that tells you what you're doing wrong. So this is just your chance to pick one area to improve, and that's what you'll focus on for the next 90 days, 30, 60, 90 days, whatever your comfort level. So the next step is I want you to think about what makes you so great. And I love this quote from Malcolm Forbes, and that is, too many people overvalue what they are not and undervalue what they are. I don't know about you, but there's times I could come up with a whole laundry list of what I'm not doing well. But then I sit down to write down what I do great, and I struggle. So this is your homework. Your next homework is to work on a list of your most valuable traits. What makes you special? What makes you the great person you are? Because we're all unique individuals that have a variety of talents, and we're very special, and we tend to not recognize that. So I'd like for you to keep a running list of all the great things that you are and do that make you special, so that you can recognize your valuable traits. Another one of my favorite quotes is, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Every day we get up and we can be positive and move forward. We have that choice. We have that choice to be positive. Having a conversation recently, it's not what happens, it's how you react to it, and maintaining that positivity. So next, to help you be more positive and have a greater belief in yourself, I am a strong encourager of affirmations. So if there's, especially if it's something that you're working on, so that one item where your 90-day opportunity to improve. So write an affirmation about that, and encouraging yourself rather than discouraging. Affirmations are great tools, but they need to be in front of us all the time so that we're constantly reinforcing that positive affirmation. Another tool, this is called a peak moment. So think about a time in your life that was just momentous. And we experience these, and we don't realize how important they are. So I want you to think of a time in your life that was just phenomenal. And I want you to write down this experience as descriptive as possible. So what do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you feel? What emotions are you experiencing? Essentially, I want you to relive the moment, but I want you to write it down. And this is a tool for your positivity toolbox, or another tool for your positivity toolbox. Let's say you're having a rough day and you've gathered a few of these, these peak moments, these momentous times in your life, having a rough day, and you go to your positivity toolbox and you pull this out and you read it, and it takes you back to that moment, and it just lifts your spirit. It just kind of resets everything for you in that time. So you take that brief break, and then you go back and you tackle what's going on. So it's just a fantastic tool to have. If you can add a picture that brings you more into that memory, even better. So just whatever you can do to really experience that moment in time. Next is your opportunity to be more positive And I've created a 30-day positivity challenge, and it's a worksheet. And this is what is included on the worksheet. If you'd like to email me, I'm more than happy to share it with you. And my email will be at the end of the presentation. So in my reading and in my studies, I came up with all these great ideas to be a more positive individual. And those were to make a gratitude list and carry it with you, to start a negativity journal, to write down your negative thoughts or actions. And, you know, in the process of that, you would want to rewrite them positive to help reframe them. Write in a journal each day your good deeds. Write in a journal positive events in your life. So I took all of these ideas and I created a worksheet, and it's the 30-day positivity challenge that takes you through each of these that can help you in 30 days really just harness the positives in your life, help you stretch your gratitude muscle, help you look for positives in your life. It's just a phenomenal tool to help you because let's face it, we go through highs and lows in life, and sometimes life is good and we don't need that reminder. But then there are other times when life is difficult and we need that reminder of why, you know, why we can remain positive. Just a fantastic tool to help you get through a tough time. In addition to that, some others. I'm a big believer in reading and listening. And I'm a little bit behind the times. I'm still a book person, you know, but I do have my Kindle. But I know beyond the books, there's tons of websites out there, and there's just tons and tons of resources. But these are some of the books that I've read that have made a difference for me. How Full Is Your Bucket? What Happy Women Know? Choices and Illusions by Eldon Taylor is one of my favorites. Positive Energy. Power of Attitude by Mac Anderson has these great short stories that are just super uplifting. Flourish by Martin Seligman. Martin Seligman is, you know, considered the modern father of positive psychology. It's phenomenal books available. Attitude is Everything. Happy, Simple Steps to Get the Most Out of Your Life. There's Barbara Fredrickson's book, Positivity, Top-Notch Research Reveals that 3-to-1 ratio that will change your life. Basically, you need 3 positives for every negative to balance things out. Happy for No Reason by Marcy Shimoff, and Making the Courage Connection by Doug Hall, another great book. The Joy in Business by Joy D. Baldridge, another great book. And then I had mentioned this earlier, Penn has a positive psychology center, Psychology Today. The resources are endless for you to add to your positivity toolbox. In closing, I have this great poem by Thomas Dreyer. The world is a great mirror. It reflects back to you what you are. If you are loving, if you are friendly, if you are helpful, the world will prove loving and friendly and helpful to you. The world is what you are. One of the participants one time said, hey, that's the law of reflection. It's just so true. And what a good way to go about every day, just putting out positivity. Here's my contact information. If I can be of assistance, I'm more than happy to help in any way. Like I said, if you'd like that worksheet or any of the materials that I have, I'm more than happy. I'm also more than happy to share the PowerPoint. So I wish you well on your path to positivity. And I hope that this presentation today is giving you a few more tools for your positivity toolbox. Thank you.
Hello there. I am Lynette Romero. I am an anchored reporter with KTLA News Channel 5. And welcome to my office. This is my office space. I am working. I'm out in the field today reporting in Long Beach. So we are in a live truck. That is my photographer, Dave Lopez. Hello there. And he is editing a piece that we're going to have later on in the day on the KTLA News. So this is kind of how I start my day, bright and early, usually before the sun comes up. And I do early morning live shots for the KTLA Morning News, and then I anchor the weekend morning news, the #1 rated KTLA Weekend Morning News. I've been doing that show for many years. I've actually been at KTLA for 22 years, originally from Denver, and I worked there for 10 years. So you can do the math. I'm older than, hopefully, than I look. But I'm happy to be in this business for as long as I've been a survivor, which is pretty exciting for me because it's not easy to survive in this business. But I am so happy to be here with all of you virtually, remotely on Zoom. This is the strange reality that we are living now in COVID, and we are making the best of it. So I'm happy to be here to talk about surviving, about thriving, about excelling in whatever industry or, walk of life you have chosen. And that's really been my mantra to do that. So interestingly enough, I didn't intend to be a reporter or an anchor. I wanted to be a doctor. I went to college to be a doctor. I was a pre-med major, and I was the first in my family to graduate from college, and I realized very quickly that my grants and my scholarships were going to run out in 4 years, and I would not have a degree that I could get a job with. I'd have a pre-med degree, which would not be enough. So I took a journalism class and fell in love and changed my major. And so I think in another life, I would have been a really great doctor, and I really love doing medical stories. But I'm so happy that I landed here because this has been an amazing career. I've covered the Papal Conclave. I went to Rome for 16 days. I've been to Mexico, El Salvador. I've been to cover the Oklahoma City bombing. I've covered Waco. I've covered so many amazing historic moments and traveled with my job and met some amazing people in my own backyard. In fact, you just never know where you're going to find a story. So it's been a really great career. I've actually had these ups and downs in my career that I know a lot of you have had in your careers and in your life. As a reporter and anchor in Denver, I wasn't getting enough opportunity, and that's why I came to LA. And I always tell the story. I'm gonna tell the story really quick because it's an interesting story for me. When I was in Denver, I was an intern. I was kind of the intern that never left. So I was an intern when I was junior, I think it was a summer going into my senior year of college. So my internship ran up in the summertime, and they said, hey, we'll let you stay and be an intern if you train the next batch of interns. I said, great. I didn't want to leave the newsroom, so I trained the next batch. And then they said, you can stay another semester if you train the next batch of interns. So I did. Right before I was about to graduate, they offered me a job. I thought, I don't want to be a writer or a desk assistant. I want to be a reporter. And luckily, my news director, Butch Montoya, who I will always be grateful to, he believed in me as one of the probably first and only for a very long time Latino news directors in a top 20 market. He saw something in me, and so he kept dangling a little carrot in front of me. And he said, just be a writer, and when you get that big job, you can leave, no strings attached. So I took the writing position, midnight to 7 a.m. That was my shift. I wrote for the morning newscast and loved it. I just loved it. I would stay. I would stay till noon. I'd stay 12 hours, not getting paid, for the rest of it, but I would stay anyway. And so little by little, I just kept getting more and more opportunity. They changed my shift to the day side shift. Then they started letting me do this and do that. And I started writing packages for talent. And then I started tracking the packages. And then I started putting a stand-up at the end of the package. And before I knew it, I was reporting and then also anchoring weekend morning news there, which is so interesting because I'm still doing that. But there's been a lot that's happened in between there. So long story short, after doing this for almost 10 years, I wanted to do more. And I had been filling in on the weekday morning show. They were looking for a new anchor, and I'd been filling in for months. And the co-anchor loved me, the crew loved me, our ratings were good. I really thought I was going to get this promotion. And my news director said, I wanted to let you know, we really appreciate you filling in. You've done a great job, but we're going to look outside the station for this position. We're kind of looking for the girl next door. We just haven't found that person yet. And I was pretty young, but I remember I was like, oh, that kind of stung. That hurt. Meanwhile, just so you know, I'm born and raised in Colorado, like fourth generation from Colorado. Like my family's been in Colorado since before it was Colorado. So I'm kind of the girl next door, but that's okay. So it bothered me, but I stayed, and I actually ended up staying there for probably another year or so after that, still wanting more opportunity. I was hungry. I wanted more. So I end up getting a job in LA, moving to LA, actually even without a job. I came here as a per diem reporter, guaranteed to do some fill-in work for Christmas. And then after that, it was like, you know, we don't know what's going to happen after that. So I sold my house in 5 days in Denver, packed up my car, brought my dog, and got out of my contract a month early. My contract in Denver wasn't up until January. Move out here. Immediately by January, I have a full-time contract to be a reporter. A year later, they offer me the 10 p.m. anchor position with Hal Fishman, and which is a big deal, right? So they take me to Beverly Hills to get like, you know, a new look. I'm going to get a makeover for my new position. And I'm sitting in this chair, and this guy's name is Laurent, and he's French, and he's got a big accent and big personality. So he's going, "What are we going to do with you, Lynette? Da, 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 da. We're going to make you beautiful." So my assistant news director says, "You know, just so you know, we want Lynette to be beautiful and give her a new look, but we want Lynette to be the 10 p.m. anchor for KTLA because people love her. She's like the girl next door." So here I am in a new market, in a new home, and now I'm the girl next door. And what I learned from that is it doesn't matter where you are. You know, you can always be the girl next door because you relate to people. And now 22 years later, I do feel this is home for me. I can't ever imagine going back to Denver. But you never know who is going to believe in you and who is going to see that special something that will give you that open door to walk through and shine. And I've never forgotten that, because it just, even though I didn't have like this chip on my shoulder, like, oh gosh, I can't believe I didn't get the opportunity I wanted. I was carrying around that weight, and it was just lifted when somebody believed in me. So that was 20 something years ago. And now, you know, there have been things that have happened since then. You know, I had a baby, and on my maternity leave, found out that I wasn't going to be the 10 p.m. anchor anymore for KTLA. A lot of people said, "Oh, you should quit. You should leave. That's terrible. How could they do that to you?" But I had just had a baby, and I wanted to be worthy of my daughter and not come to work with my tail between my legs. So I came back, and I've stayed, and I've continued to thrive and do great things here and get great assignments. And now, as the weekend morning anchor, I'm anchoring one of our highest rated shows of all time at KTLA. So we just got a ratings period that is just spectacular. And I connect with my viewers in a whole new way. So that's kind of where I've been and how I've gotten here. But in addition to that, I think during this pandemic, I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about the people around me, a lot about sacrifices that we make and living our best life without sounding too much like Oprah. But I know that I have not always been focused on me. And I think as women, as Latinas, we tend to do that. We take care of people. We take pride in that. That fills up our heart and our souls. And I had been doing that for a long time. So I have a 16-year-old daughter. My 90-year-old mother, who has dementia, lives with my family, lives with us. We take care of her. We moved her from Colorado here when she started getting sick. I have an overnight schedule where I go to work in the middle of the night. My husband and I have restaurants. We're in the restaurant business, which is a terrible time to be in the restaurant business. A lot going on. And so last year in April, my husband said to me, "You've not been to the doctor. I just went to see our doctor, and we see the same doctor, and you haven't been there." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I was there last year. I was there, yeah." So God bless my husband. He made an appointment for me anyway. I ended up getting to my doctor. I hadn't been there in 3 years. If you would have put my hand on a Bible, I would have said I was there the year before. But I take my mom to Kaiser, every other month. I take Olivia to all of her appointments. I make David's appointments. And here I hadn't been to the doctor in 3 years. The doctor took my blood pressure, and it was 175 over something like 90. I don't know. I normally have low blood pressure, like 108. And I've known this doctor since I've been here. He was at my wedding. So I trust him. And he said, "What is going on?" And I burst into tears. The stress level was so high, I was not taking care of myself. And he said, you are a walking time bomb. This is what happens to women in particular. They don't see the signs. They don't take care of themselves. I was having no symptoms of this high blood pressure. I wasn't having headaches or fatigue or any of that. But I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't exercising. I was carrying too much weight. My knee was swollen. And so because it was swollen, I couldn't exercise. I wasn't, it was swollen because I wasn't exercising. It was like this terrible trap I was in. He said, you've really got to focus on you. You've got to take care of you. You've got to find time to exercise. You've got to start eating better. You've got to start sleeping. You've got to start taking care of you and lower the stress. So I took it to heart. And here's the other thing. He said, I'm going to put you on blood pressure medication, which was like, oh no, you've got to be kidding me. I did not like that at all. So I tried to lose some weight. He wanted to see me in June. So I tried. I started like doing my protein shakes. And I've been here, done that. I remember in 4th grade thinking, I need to go on a diet. I clearly remember not feeling comfortable in my own skin. So this is a struggle that I've had my whole life. I've done well sometimes and not so well other times. So I've done the yo-yo thing. I've done every diet out there. Cabbage soup diet, Weight Watchers, what was it called? Lindora, ExecuSlim. What's one that begins with an M? I don't know. There's all kinds of them, right? I've done them all. Protein shakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then, I don't know. They weren't working for me, or they would work for me and then I would slide back, right? So, by June, I'd lost maybe 7 pounds, not very much. And so I went back to him and I asked him about intermittent fasting. And I had been looking into it and reading about it, but I wasn't sure if it was legit. And he said, absolutely. I went 100% encourage you to do it. He said, I've done it myself. There's a lot of research to show that it can not only help you lose weight, maintain weight, but it also can help make you healthier. And he said, do the research. There's a lot of research about cancer, a lot of research about dementia and Alzheimer's and how fasting can make a difference. So the reporter in me went crazy and I literally became obsessed with just researching intermittent fasting. How does it work? Why does it work? And what became the game changer for me, because this was really about health. Again, I've struggled with my weight for my entire life and my career, and yet I was still on TV every single day. And that's a really tough struggle to be in and be on TV. But there were times that I thought, you know what, I'm doing fine. It's okay. I'm never going to be this big. This is who I am. You have to, we come in all colors, shapes, and sizes. And I really wanted to embrace that. But when it was about health, it was a totally different ballgame. And that's what changed it for me. So with fasting, there's something that's called autophagy. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I'm just going to tell you really quickly why it made a difference for me in my health. Autophagy is when you fast for a significant period of time, at least 24 hours, body begins to do its own healing. It cleans itself, it recycles, it rejuvenates itself. So autophagy means self-eating. So what happens is we feed ourselves way too much. We feed ourselves breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks in between. So we're never hungry. We are uncomfortable when we're hungry. And so we're giving our body sugar, because everything you eat breaks down into sugar and glucose. And so your body is never hungry. So things build up. So for example, in your brain, this plaque, this sticky protein stuff that leads to dementia and Alzheimer's is constantly being fed sugar, which it loves, and it makes it grow and get bigger and thicker and stickier. And that's dementia and Alzheimer's. There are doctors who call dementia and Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because many, many people who have dementia or Alzheimer's have struggled with diabetes. So their blood sugar has been high for years and years and years, and they are prone to dementia and Alzheimer's. So if you scale it back and allow your body to get into autophagy and to feed on itself, autophagy, that's what it means, self-feeding, then it will go in and clear all that stuff out. It will recycle the bad proteins. It will recycle the bad cells. It's just, your body is designed to do this. We just don't ever give it that chance because all we do is eat. Okay, so basically where I ended up, the sweet spot for me for fasting was OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. So I would stop eating at 3 or 4, not like a strict, but 3 or 4. I would go to sleep around 6 or 7. I would wake up, I would go to work. I would work from 3:30 in the morning, usually get off around 11:30, 12. But then what I would do is I would go home and I would work out in a fasted state. People say, oh my gosh, you can't work out if you haven't eaten all day. You need to have a protein shake before you work out. Not true. I have the best workouts when I'm in a fasted state. I'm lighter, I'm more focused. I burn more calories, I burn more energy, all that stuff. I clean my body. It's a way better workout for me. And then after I'm done working out, then I eat. So I made a deal with myself. I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to eat until I've worked out. And that was a really good incentive for me to work out as much as possible. So I got so much better. My knee, I can't tell you like that, the inflammation in my body was gone with fasting. We carry around so much inflammation. So basically I was fasting like 20 hours, 21 hours a day, eating one meal, maybe having a shake. I would have dessert. People say, what did you eat? I would pretty much eat anything I wanted. I would have a great salad a lot of the time because you want good food because you haven't eaten. I would have salmon and rice and grilled zucchini. I would have frozen yogurt with chocolate chips as my dessert. I would never go over 12 or 1400 calories when I was really trying to lose weight. And it just came off. Was it easy? No. Was I focused? Yes. And I was obsessed with information. I read about it. I watched podcasts. I listened to TED Talks. I read as many articles as I could find so that I could stay focused on what I was trying to do. And I lost about 1 to 2 pounds a week, which is about average. Like you shouldn't lose any more than that. I think there was 1 month that I might have lost 2.5 pounds, a couple of weeks here and there. But between April, when I first started trying to lose weight on my own, and June, not too much. Then June, it kickstarted it. By December, I'd lost 50 pounds, more than 50 pounds. And now I've lost over 70 pounds total. It's a lot of weight. Interestingly enough, I looked up how many pounds does an average 4th grader weigh, and an average 4th grader weighs 70 pounds. So I lost a 4th grader, which is when I first started my battle. And it works. It works for me. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. I tell people all the time. I do a talk every Friday because so many people were interested because you could see the weight loss. It was a dramatic transformation. And people thought I was sick. People thought that, people thought all kinds of things. But the truth was I took control over my health and my destiny. And so a lot of people wanted to know about it. So I do something on Fridays on my Instagram Live called Fast Talk with Lynette, and I do it every Friday. And I started out just saying, okay, I can't answer all the emails and all the DMs, all the questions that I get. So I'm going to go on one time and I'm answering every single question you have. I'll tell you anything you want to know. And it became so popular that I do it every Friday now, because now there's amazing stories. People who saw what I was doing and decided to try it for themselves, and they've lost weight and they've gotten healthier and they're working out and they're off of their meds, all of those things. So I say it a million times and I will keep saying it. I'm not a doctor. You have to consult with your doctor. I did. I went back and saw my doctor every 3 months during this process. I couldn't wait to go back to see him because I was so proud of myself. I couldn't wait to have him weigh me so I could show him how much weight I'd lost, which is, I'm such a nerd, I know. But so I encourage people, you have to see your doctor, make sure it's okay. And then you have to do the research, do the homework, figure out what works for you. This is what works for me. And I think it's something I can sustain. I can't imagine not doing this. But that doesn't mean people say, do you fall off the wagon? I don't really think that there's a wagon I'm on. I mean, I'm not falling on or off. If I want to close my window early, I close my window early. If I want to eat for 12 hours instead of 3, I will. And then the very next day I jump back on. So for example, I had a great Thanksgiving. We ate, I had pumpkin pie, my favorite. In fact, I had pumpkin pie one day for breakfast on the air. But I did. I had, cocktails. I had a great time. And then this week I said, all right, I'm getting back on it. So I did a 24-hour fast. The last time, so today is Wednesday. I ate dinner on Monday night. And then I fasted all day yesterday, and I'm still in my fast because I wanted to hit some autophagy. So I'm still fasting. And after I'm done working today, I'm going to try to get a workout in, and then I'm going to break my fast. I might break my fast before my workout. I'm not sure. It's my choice, my flexibility. But I wanted to get into autophagy because I know that is my body's way of healing itself. So that's my that's my transformation. But here's why I wanted to share it with you, because it's obvious and a lot of people want to know about it. And I'm happy to share it because I think that if I can do anything to help one person, and I have already, I have countless people who call me or email me and tell me that they've lost weight. They send me before and after pictures that blow my mind. And so to know that I can help people find something that works for them or just inspire them. They looked at me and said, hey, I probably weighed about as much as she did. I'm built kind of like she is. She's Latina, I'm Latina. I love beans and chili and tortillas, so do I. If she can do it, I can do it. Yes, you can do it. So I think that has been really exciting for me and inspiring for me, and it keeps me wanting to continue on the same journey. So that's also why I have shared about it. And just knowing that we're in COVID, like I couldn't imagine being more terrified during this time than I already am. And I'm at my fighting weight. I'm healthier than I've been in years. I weigh less than I did when I got married. I probably weigh about what I weighed when I met my husband, and I was at my thinnest then as an adult. This is probably the best shape I've ever been in as an adult. And this is the fighting weight to be in if, God forbid, I were to get sick with COVID or anything else. And so I think during this time, we want to be our best. We want to be our strongest. We want to be our healthiest. We want to be our most responsible, all of those things. So that's why I think that this is happening for me. You know, thank God that this is happening for me now, and I'm ready, you know, so kind of bring it on. And so I've become a poster child for that. And I've actually, if you follow me, you'll know I also had a little bit of a breast cancer scare in October. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And again, I'm really big on trying to use my platform for awareness if I can. So I always talk about my mammograms. I've been getting mammograms for years, since before I was even supposed to, because my dad died of cancer. I had a lot of cancer in my family. And so I was always afraid of it. So I started getting mammograms very early. And I'm religious about it. And so October, Breast Cancer Awareness. So I took, you know, my selfie and said, get your mammogram, blah, blah, blah. This is great. Thinking, okay, I did my part. Next year I'll do it again. And then I get a call. There's a problem with your mammogram. There's an area of suspicion. We need you to come back. So I thought, okay. I went back, and immediately the radiologist said, this is not right. This is very different from last year. You've got this spot. It's calcium deposits. It's in a cluster, and that's always a problem. You need to have a biopsy. Like, none of this had ever happened to me before. But again, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm stronger than ever. If there's going to be a battle, now is the time. So I did have to have a biopsy. They took out the tissue, and they realized that it was enough of a concern. It was considered precancerous, or precancerous. But I ended up having basically like a lumpectomy. I had to go back in under surgery and have a surgery where they had to take all that tissue out. But that was scary. But again, because I'm an open book, and I want to share with you as much as I absolutely can if it helps anyone. And again, I've gotten emails and text messages and tweets and DMs that people are getting their mammogram. Even during COVID, they put it off. I put it off. I was supposed to go in August. I put it off because of COVID. But you know what? Breast cancer does not quarantine. So then I became a PSA for mammograms and early detection, and don't let COVID stop you from being healthy and getting all the screenings that you need to get done. So I don't know. I became I wanted to be a doctor. I became a reporter, and now a poster child for health and fitness and the Peloton that I ride every day, and, you know, getting your mammogram. But the truth is, you know, it seems so weird when you hear that phrase that we've been hearing so much over the last 9 months, you know, we're all in this together. But that's kind of like my mantra for life. We are all in this together. And I feel very connected to the people who have welcomed me into their homes for 22 years. And so if there's anything I can share in my life to help them or to bring them, you know, a smile or a direction or a little bit of inspiration and information, I'm going to do it. So that's kind of my story. And because you're all women and you're striving to be your best you and the best mom you can be, and the best wife and the best daughter and the best friend that you can be, I feel like we're in this together. And so whatever we can share and however we can help and whatever we can give to each other, we got to do it. We've got to do it. So I'm so happy to be here with you at a distance and have you be here in my office space, in my life truck. So thank you for having me as one of your guest speakers. And I hope to see you on the KTLA News the next time you're able to turn on that TV. Don't drop the remote. All right. Thanks, guys.
Hi, I'm Sandra Campos. I am so glad to be able to speak to everyone today from New York. I'm actually upstate New York. I have a horse farm that I bought a year and a half ago, thankfully before the pandemic hit, because since March 12th, I've been out here. Instead of being in Manhattan in the city apartment that I lived in for decades, I have been up here in nature, with nature. And I have to say, after all these months, I'm very, very glad that I've had that opportunity to get out of the go-to-go, day-to-day hustle and be able to really have some nature, have some greenery and have things. So hopefully every one of you guys has had health and safety and has had some nature to be able to commune with as well. So I have been, my life really from a career standpoint has fully been in retail and fashion. And I've been in the industry now for 30 years. Can't believe I'm saying that, but it is true. I grew up in Texas. I am a first generation Mexican American my parents are both from Mexico. And the story that I tell when I have any conversations with anyone, because I've really been able to appreciate this more in my life over the past 5 years, is that my parents were both entrepreneurs. They immigrated this country when they were very young. My father was 14, my mother was 18. They got married, had 6 kids together, but always were very entrepreneurial, both of them, in everything that they were doing. And so from a very early age, I saw a lot of different operational types of businesses, whether it was sales, which my father did a lot of, whether it was real estate, which my mother then turned into, the tortilla factory that we moved to Texas to be able to start and open. And our family and our kids, the kids would be there evenings, Saturdays. I would have to work on the production line. I would see packaging, truck logistics, pickups, and sales. And we had a retail store in the front. So I didn't realize at the time just how much that would impact my life. But it did. And obviously in a good way, because I was able to really continue down the entrepreneurial path, as well as from a company standpoint, and really growing and learning about business, about being a leader, about fashion, about the logistics of running a business across the board. And that's what my life has been. I started out when I left Texas to move to New York. I knew I wanted to be in fashion. There were really only 2 options for me at the time, and that was New York or LA. So I chose New York. And at the time, the CEOs and presidents of companies were coming out of sales. And I knew I wanted to be a CEO. I knew I wanted to be running a business. And that was from very early on in my life that I knew that. So I wanted to pursue that. And I had milestones and goals that I wanted to achieve, whether they were financial goals or whether they were title goals, whatever it was, I had those by a certain age. So I embarked on the path. I was very, very lucky at the time that I started in the industry. There were a lot of retailers. It was very different than it is today, but it was all about the power of a brand and understanding and learning about product and merchandising and the passion for fashion, which sounds a little cliche, but it's true. Passion for really understanding what is fashion, and fashion makes us get up, and fashion is your choices, and it defines not who you are, but it defines your style and who you want to be that day. And it's the experience that I've had with that, whether it was through Donna Karan, through my experience at Ralph Lauren, through my experience with Oscar de la Renta's brand or others that I've been a part of, and I've been very fortunate to be able to be a part of, I had learned so much about that, not just about color and prints and the shape of a woman's body, but who the consumer is from a business standpoint. 75% of the consumers are women. You know, we need to address that and understand. And it's one thing that I learned a lot when I was starting out in the industry as well, because at the time I was able to go around and travel all over the country. And I can tell you, I've been to Edina, Minnesota. I've been all over Wichita to Oklahoma City to Tulsa to, you know, places that many people wouldn't even dream of going today for business in fashion, because those stores don't exist anymore. But I was able to do that. And with that, I gained a lot of knowledge of the consumer and understanding what people need in different times. And the fact that, you know, the fact that we're selling wool product in August or shipping wool product in August, which is what we were doing in a lot of the businesses beforehand for Florida, when it doesn't matter because you're still wearing tank tops, you know, none of that made sense. So, you know, and we wouldn't, in Edina, Minnesota, as an example, there were certain weather patterns there that obviously it's going to be colder earlier, so they wouldn't have sweaters or coats in time. So all of those kind of rules that fashion just had just because it was part of our history, it caught up. So years and years later, now here we are in 2020 with a pandemic that really forced fashion to take a look at what we've been doing and taking a look at what the products are that we're delivering, who we're thinking about, how we're doing it, how much product we're putting out there. The last few years have been focused about sustainability. This generation between the millennials and Generation Z is advocating for change, is advocating for our environment, is advocating for climate change and making sure that there's a world that exists well beyond our generations. And fashion's a big part of that. And we have had to change. So we've been thinking about it. There have been steps that we've taken as an industry, but overall now with this pandemic, we've been forced to make changes. And those changes include, like, why are we delivering product 12 months out of the year? It's too much. Why do we have to create and I'm making these numbers up, but like 200 different pieces each and every single month? It was all about capitalistic gain and growing a business, but to what end? Because the consumers have changed. It used to be that we in fashion could dictate what you would wear based on what you saw in a magazine, based on what an editor would tell you was the right thing to do. It used to be that you could wear one designer head to toe. But as fast fashion came in 10, 12 years ago, it became bigger and bigger, H&M, Zara, Uniqlo, et cetera. You could start mixing things. So then the high-lows started coming into play. You could wear Prada and Zara at the same time, and you could mix things. And then as social media started to come in and change, that changed everything. I started a business with Selena Gomez in 2009, my business partner, Tony, and I. And she was 15, going on 16 then, but we started a business that was something we believed in for her. We believed in her. We believed in really being able to address that category within the mass. We sold at the time, we had a six-year collaboration with her in Kmart stores in the States and then a couple of other countries. But my point on that is that when we did that in 2009, it was only Facebook. She had less than 1 million followers in 2009 on Facebook. There was no Instagram, there's no Snapchat, there's no TikTok. It didn't exist. So that education for me in and of itself was all about youth culture marketing and understanding what this generation wanted and authenticity. No one did it better and does it better than Selena herself in terms of authentic communication and building a community, building that fan base. So if you think about like this massive change that we've had just in a 10-year time period, now going on 11 years, but over the 10-year time period that social media has existed, now you have influencers and celebrities, and they have started to dictate what the right fashion is or what you want to get. And guess what? It's no longer about the seasons. It's no longer about like, this is it for spring, this is it for fall. It's an annual seasonless cycle. So fabrics started changing. And then you start to add sustainability into it in terms of new fabrications or recycling or, vintage products. And if you talk about resellers like ThredUp, which is doing amazing, or RealReal, and the consumer's just wanting different things. They're not spending as much, so we don't have to make as much. They are living in different places. They're traveling more, so we need to be able to, from a fashion standpoint, create product that the customer needs at the time that they want it and at the time that they need it, and not be more piggish than that, I guess, in terms of really describing how large everything became. So we've been forced to make changes as an industry. And therefore, companies have been forced to make changes, and individuals have been forced to make changes too, to look at themselves and to say, is this really what I want to do? Is this where we're going to go? Obviously, we've all been impacted by this pandemic. Everyone around the world has been impacted. And whether you've lost your job or not, you still have had the opportunity to take a look and say, my family's most important. I have extreme gratitude for the health that I have in my family. And what do I want to do for the future? How am I going to make that impact? For me, in the past 5 years, I've been really focused on helping other entrepreneurs, advising small startup businesses, and really focusing on the Latina and Latino specifically, because it's something that obviously I'm passionate about, but I wasn't always, but I am now. And I have been, to be able to really be a part of and a voice to be able to help raise other people and to help show younger generations what they can be as well. I am one of 6 kids, and I don't tell this story lightly because it's not one I share very often, but I'm the second of 6. My older sister is a judge in San Diego. I have a sister right beneath me who is an attorney in Utah, in Salt Lake City, another sister who's a PhD professor at Penn State, another sister who's a very accomplished photographer, and a brother who's an entrepreneur. Out of those, I had 3 that were Ivy League school. I didn't go to an Ivy League. I went to Texas Tech University. I made things work out for myself. I have been an entrepreneur. I have been leading businesses. I am a CEO. I am Latina. I am first generation. And I didn't have all that same level of education that so many other people have had, but I've learned. I've had continuous learning. I believe in continuing education, where it's not that you have to keep going to school, but you keep learning yourself and you keep schooling yourself. So that's through, I spend 2 hours in the morning reading, catching up, and it's much more than that in terms of throughout the day and the evenings as well. But I'm constantly learning, constantly looking, trying to push myself forward and really look and see what's going to happen. I love business. I love driving business. So to me, it's really exciting to be able to read about that. It's not for everybody, but it is for me. But because of my experience and because I've been able to do and be where I am right now in my career and in my life, I did that because I didn't let no's stop me. And if there's any lesson that I've learned, it is about that. You're going to have no's. You're going to have those bumps, big bumps, small bumps. You're going to have them. Being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster ride every day. Some days you're high in the morning and low in the afternoon, and other times you're doing really well for a month and then you have an off month. It's a roller coaster ride. But believing in yourself and being kind to yourself about it, because you're doing the best that you can do, is the most important, one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. As a woman, as a mother, I have 3 children. I had 3 children under the age of 4. I was getting divorced. I had to really look at myself and say, can I have this life? Can I have it all? I'm not a believer that you can have it all. I think you can have as much as you want at various points in time, and you have to look at it on a daily basis and say, did I do and have everything I wanted today? Was I able to be the best at something today? I just have never been able to understand how you can have everything when you want to be a professional. You want to keep growing in your career. You want to be a mom and be there for your children. You want to be a great partner or wife or in a sibling and a daughter and everything else. It's a lot. It's a lot for all of us. So one of the things that I have said is that at different phases in your life, you're going to look at yourself and determine what is the most important thing for you. And when my kids were young and I was going through a divorce, the most important thing for me was to take a step aside from the corporate life. And that's when I started the business with Selena Gomez. And as an entrepreneur, I was able to be at home with my kids for dinner at night. I was able to be there to understand and see what their faces after school and understand what was happening with their classmates. And I have 2 girls, so there's always a little drama there. And it was the right thing for me. Everybody's going to have a different choice. Everybody will have different decisions they make, but you can pivot. You can make those changes. I certainly have had to. Some cases I really felt that I had to. I had no choice. And in other cases I wanted to. Now with this year with the pandemic, I spent more than 2 years as the CEO of Diane von Furstenberg, a very iconic fashion house, DVF. She's one of the most iconic designers in the industry and a great joy to work with. And the pandemic changed all of that. It forced us to take a look at the business and say, what's this going to be? And for them as a family-run business, it was also, what are they going to do, and how they want her legend. What do they want the legend to be, and how do they want to continue to go forward with that? So the business changed, and I left there mid-June. And I also had to look and say, what do I want to do? How am I going to make an impact? How am I going to continue to try to make a difference? How can I help others? And how can I really do something that's exciting, that doesn't require, potentially selling $500 dresses or other things that may not be the most important thing today based on where we are in our life and our culture. So I have just recently also decided to pivot again. And while I've pivoted from being a corporate to an entrepreneur to back to corporate again, in different leadership roles and in fashion and retail, now I'm actually moving into tech. So between technology, which is really obviously driving a lot of data and a lot of analytics and a lot of insight into business, it's doing that for fashion. And so for me, it's about trying to continue to move forward, trying to keep moving ahead and pushing the envelope a bit more so that I can always try to help others also move ahead and move further into the future and be a little bit more advanced and innovative in their thinking and accelerating what we know is there. Like I've known for the last 12 years that digital was going to be important. And I've been moving myself in that direction by learning again, through reading, through learning other things. And now I have the ability to continue to hone those skills and do it in a way that is leading an organization and working with other retailers as well. And why do I tell you that? Because I think it's important to know that you're not stuck. You're not stuck. And no matter what, some things may happen, and I get calls or emails from people and they'll ask me questions and they'll feel like they are stuck, and there's always a way to get out of it. And I can tell you that I certainly feel like I'm a testament to trying to navigate through change and not always doing it really well, but doing it and making it happen. And I think that just really believing in yourself more than anything else, you can't expect others to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. I've spent a lot of time really trying to make sure that, even though I've always believed in myself, just trying to make sure that I did it in a way as well that kept me going. Because you're going to, again, like I said, you'll have those down days, but you'll keep going and you'll keep pushing, and just know that there's a lot of support out there. One of the most exciting things that I've seen in the last few years is really these communities and these groups and organizations that get developed, especially for women, and really focused on women and helping women. And there's so much more support now than I ever felt that there was at any point in time in my career. Women supporting other women, building each other up. It's incredible. It's so great to see this happening now. And it's not that there's not competition, but there's less competition because we're helping support each other. And I think that's really fantastic and a great way forward for us across the board. So I would leave you with that note to help support others, to build each other up, to be kind to yourself about what you do, and to know that there are always options, and never take no as the final answer. Thanks so much for having me, Richard.
So when I go to the grocery store and I see strawberries, I may be realistic here. I'm a little snob. I want to make sure and go over there. Okay, what do those look like? My family has been in the strawberry business for over 40 years. My parents started as sharecroppers, and when I was a little girl, I'd go out and help them, being the oldest of 6. And then after, just helping my parents with the whole accounting, with their business in the strawberries, and here I am. Being in the strawberry industry obviously has given our family lots of opportunities. My father, coming from Mexico when he was like 15, 16, came during the Bracero program. He worked hard here, he was committed, and just looking for the American dream. I see my father at 85 still out here working. And if he's worked hard to get where he's at and struggled, like he said, nothing in my pockets, and has done what he's done, we're like, well, we have big shoes to fill, but we have all the tools necessary to make something of ourselves and to help other people. When I see these farm workers, they're my family, because I was one of them, and I understand the hard work and how everybody's trying to make ends meet for their family, and it makes me happy to see that now we can provide this to families, give them the opportunity, just like we had the opportunity when we were growing up. It's been a stepping stone too for a lot of families. They have moved up from picking strawberries to where they moved to truck drivers, they moved up to foremen, to crew bosses, to owning their own business, being a grower. So it's great to see them, because strawberries are a good opportunity, just like it was for us. I was fortunate enough to be elected by my peers as the first woman to chair the California Strawberry Commission. I do want to be a great role model. I want to tell everybody that you can do whatever you want, you know, as long as you're taking your one step at a time and you're moving forward. Don't look back.
I love it to Lorena because she helped me when I started growing strawberries. She helped to me a lot.
Make me emotional. I can honestly say I've been like his right hand, because I've been here from the beginning, and I just loved helping him and everything he did, because he taught me how to write the first payroll check. He taught me how to do the bookkeeping, and I think that's why I wanted to go into business and accounting. And he's taught me, I mean, everything I know, from the morals and the values, and made me the woman that I am today. And I think that's what's pushed me to get to where I'm at.
Check this out. It's my you impression. Sitting there with no intentions of getting up. Pretty good, huh? But I'm not judging, because I'd probably be doing the same. And since the average American watches TV and streaming media for more than 4 hours per day, the American Heart Association made binge breaks. A cool and quick way to get off your booty. That's right, booty. So be ready. We might just make you want to move the next time you binge.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Yang, and I am a family law attorney in sunny Southern California. Today, I'm going to be speaking about a very interesting topic that a lot of folks are talking about recently, California family law and the recent COVID-19 effects that have made a difference and an impact on family law. So let's just start with a background of marriage and divorce. In the United States, up until this year, half of current marriages have been ending in divorce. In fact, in California, the divorce rate is actually 60%. And that's only for first marriages. For folks that have married more than once, it goes up to 68% for second marriages and more than 75% for third marriages. So I guess people don't learn their lesson, you know, they just continue getting married and, you know, continue filing for divorce. As a result, about a third of American children end up growing up living with only one parent, especially if they're from the poor neighborhoods. In recent years, the divorce rate has been declining, but it's only because millennials are not getting married. They see their parents getting divorced. They see their friends, aunts and uncles getting divorced. And so they don't believe in the concept of marriage anymore. If you don't get married, you won't get divorced. Moving on to the evolution of divorce and child custody. Back in the day, the focus was more parent-centered. Now, courts focus on the children. It's a child-centered focus. In California, California is a community property state as well as a no-fault state, which means that if anyone has an affair, has a side girl, side guy, it does not make a difference in the divorce process or in terms of asset division. There's also an increasing recognition of the father role. Moms and dads pretty much have like equal rights nowadays. A lot of people think, oh, if you're the female, you're the mother, you have an advantage. Is not that nowadays. A lot of fathers are stay-at-home dads, and they become the main primary caretaker. So just remember these terms: best interest of the child. That's how courts rule in terms of determining who has custody. So this year, it's, very interesting because of the pandemic, the quarantine, all of this stuff that's been happening in 2020. So what are the effects on family law? Well, back in February, before the US shut down, China was shut down first. And when the lockdown was lifted in China, the divorce rate spiked. There was like lines outside the courthouses. The employees at the courthouses couldn't even take a break to drink water because everyone was just filing for divorce. There was definitely a huge spike, and experts have said this is due to living in confined quarters during the quarantine that put a strain on their marriages. During February, that was also the new year. So a lot of Chinese folks in China were quarantined with in-laws, with extended family members. And that's definitely not healthy for a marriage, or for any relationship. And so there was a huge spike. And we predicted, and it came true, that in the US, when we went into quarantine and then, the courts reopened on June 22nd of 2020, also, like, the US couples rushed to the courthouses, filed. We're a law firm, we specialize in family law, so we can personally say that we've been getting calls in the evenings, midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., when the couples are fighting and they can't sleep because they're just mad at each other and they want to take actions. The best action they can take is to call a divorce attorney to get advice on how to file. So that's definitely been a big effect on, family law during this pandemic. Other things that have changed during this pandemic is that child custody and child support are being modified, right? So child custody and child support can be modified anytime until the child turns 18. And right now, parents are fighting because they have different views on how to stay safe during COVID. If the working parent, for example, is going out, meeting with clients, maybe refusing to wear a mask, not using hand sanitizer, and the other parent who's staying at home is like super conservative, then that parent who's conservative is going to go file a modification of child custody and say, look, my spouse is putting my life, my kid's life, or families' lives in danger because they're not being careful and safe during the pandemic. There's a lot of fear going on. And when there's fear, if one spouse has a differing perspective, that fearful person is going to want to take action. And that's what we've been seeing. They've been going to court and filing for modification. Support is another issue that's been really hot because a lot of folks during the pandemic have lost their jobs. Unemployment rate is at an all-time high. And as you know, support is dependent on the incomes of the parties. So when someone's income drops or goes to zero, then the support calculation is going to change. They're not going to be able to pay the original support that was ordered by the court. So if they don't want to be held to that number, they got to go back to court and file for a modification of child support, of spousal support. Anytime support needs to be changed, it requires either an agreement between the parties or a court order. In this case, the judges are really busy figuring out these support modifications. So courts are really busy, but on top of that, experts are predicting that next year, 2021, there's going to be even more divorce filings. And that's because even with the spike in divorce cases, there still are couples that are holding off, either because they're too scared to leave the house to go find a new place to live, or they're just like testing their patience and trying to wait it out until this pandemic is over and then taking action and making decisions. So a lot of folks who are unhappy, stressed out at home are just waiting. They're not taking action even though they want to. And next year, when a vaccine comes out and when the pandemic is over, that's when they're going to file. So experts are predicting another spike in the number of divorce filings next year, and even employment. Just because folks are employed right now and haven't lost their job yet does not mean that they have stability. They could still lose their job in the next year. And when that happens, more modifications are going to be filed. Okay, so that's all the effects that's happening with COVID nowadays. I'll go into some information just about, how custody is determined and how support is calculated. So custody, the court looks at who is a better parent at co-parenting, because again, remember I said best interest of the child earlier. You got to remember that phrase, best interest of the child. So courts believe that a parent who is the better at co-parenting and allows the other parent more frequent and continued contact should have primary custody. So in this case, a lot of parents are asking me, like, is it okay if I don't follow my custody order because I don't want to put my kids in danger, since my spouse or my ex is going out and, we have no idea if they're positive or negative because they refuse to test and they're not being safe, they're going to gatherings and not following the county rules. Can I disobey the court order to protect my life and my children's lives? They're looking at their lives as priority. But courts are stating that despite differences in dealings with the pandemic, with COVID, you still need to abide by the court orders. Even though they were ordered prior to the pandemic, it's still very important to follow the court orders. Because if you don't follow the court orders, and you refuse to let the other parent see the child, you end up becoming the parent who is not allowing frequent and continued contact with the other parent. And the courts can, in fact, take away your custodial rights and your visitations. So it could work against you if you don't obey a court order because you're wanting to protect yourself and your children, right? So following the court orders is very important. And courts are going to look at who is doing better at co-parenting. Children also have a say if they are 14 and older. So in California, if a child is age 14 and older, the courts believe they are of a sufficient age and capacity to make their own decisions. And to testify to the court as to which parent they want to live with. So 14-year-olds, teenagers, they can go to court and they can say, I want to live with dad because dad is safer and dad doesn't go out and, hang out with friends, and I feel safer at dad's house, and mom is going to parties and doing this and doing that and traveling. So kids can go to the courts and present their wishes. But 14 and over. If they are under 14, then they will not be able to testify in court. And that's in conjunction with California Family Code 3042. For kids that are under 14, there is what's called a custody evaluation process. And that's where the courts will designate a third-party investigator to come to the house, interview mom and dad, interview the child, interview them together, and then write up a report, give it to the judge. And then the judge will then be able to see what the findings are in terms of what the child says, what the interview, how the interview questions were answered, all that information. So that's how a 13 and under child can get their opinion in through the report of a custody evaluator. But they cannot go directly to court and tell the judge which parent they want to live with. During this time, there's also a lot of domestic violence cases, unfortunately. There's been an uptick in police calls, in restraining order cases. When the couples are cooped up in their home, then they don't get along, they will resort to violence. And so we've seen an increase in restraining order filings and domestic violence cases. Child abuse cases are also on the rise, but not in terms of the numbers, because child abuse, one of the biggest, the biggest proponents are teachers. Teachers usually report child abuse cases most often than anyone else. Right now, children are cooped up at home. They're doing Zoom classes if they're going to school. Most of the schools are closed. And so we don't know what's happening to these children at home. Some of them are being left alone because the parents have to go to work. But they're doing Zoom classes, but we really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And so if teachers can't report, there's a lot of child abuse cases that are not being reported, but it is happening because the children are spending more time at home with their parents who are stressed out and not knowing how to deal with unemployment, deal with the COVID fears, and deal with noisy children that are interfering with their work. So it's just a combination of so many different factors that are happening right now. And once schools reopen, then we'll get a better sense of the actual numbers of child abuse cases that have gone up. In terms of calculating child support can be modified anytime before the child turns 18 and is calculated using what's called the DissoMaster. The DissoMaster is a calculator that the government has created where you input mom's income and then dad's income, mom's percentage with the children, dad's percentage with the children, and then out will pop how much one party has to pay another. So right now, because income levels are fluctuating, some people are doing better in their jobs, but some people are losing their jobs. So this child support calculated with the DissoMaster is definitely fluctuating too. For alimony, which is spousal support, for marriages that are under 10 years, the alimony usually is just half of the length of the marriage. So if you're married for 9 years, the breadwinner will pay 4.5 years of alimony. But for marriages that are 10 years and longer, that becomes known as a long-term or permanent alimony case. And alimony could be ordered for a lifetime until one party has no more income or is retired. So it could be lifelong spousal support. And for these lifelong alimony cases, the parties can go back and modify the numbers. So during this time, a lot of parties are going back and they're modifying the lifelong alimony orders to reduce it, or increase it depending on their job situation. The unemployment rate in the last 2 months, it increased from 4.4% to 5.3% in California. And because income is a factor of support calculation, there is a huge spike in the number of requests for orders filed for modification of support. So thank you for being here with us today to learn about how family law has been impacted by COVID-19 this year. If you have any questions, I can be reached at my website, yanglawoffices.com, and I'm here to answer all of your family law questions. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Samantha Chowdhury Saini. I'm a physician that works in Hemet, and I spoke to this audience a year ago, and what a difference this year has made. Last year, I was there with all of you, speaking to you in person with my colleague, Dr. Mamta Singhvi, about how to age gracefully. And this year, my mind is on a very different topic, several different topics. And over the past year, things have changed so much in our society in terms of the way that we go about our daily lives and the things that we have to think about. But I'm so proud of the way that the Inland Empire community in general has handled this pandemic. The community support for the healthcare workers has been immense, and I think that has all been so great. Besides that, I personally reached a goal of mine, which was to become involved in the community in a bigger capacity. I did run for our Hemet Unified School District board and was able to be elected. And so that was very exciting. And of course, running during the pandemic was a completely different experience than what I had ever imagined doing if I ever ran for any type of public office. But it was, again, really surprising to me how many people were supportive of a physician coming onto the school board in the context of this pandemic. And I was really grateful for the support I received from community members and people who didn't know me being very enthusiastic about my candidacy. So other than that, I think that a few things I wanted to touch on is that, in the space of a year, I have seen this community come together and really handle this pandemic and try to support folks and hospitals and healthcare workers and any type of essential worker in a way that made me feel really proud. So I wanted to thank the general community for that support. Sorry, I'm gonna put this on silent. So I wanted to thank the community for the support. Since last year when I spoke to this audience, there were a few people that had reached out to me, and I was just, so touched that just coming out and speaking to you really seemed to make people feel excited about health and about talking about health. And I think that that was an interesting sort of segue into this year when it seemed like all we thought about was health and keeping ourselves healthy. Last year, I did talk about how to gracefully age, but a lot of the things I talked about continue to be a centerpiece of how I think we can weather this pandemic. It was about taking care of yourself and not necessarily focusing on negative aspects, but focusing on positive. And I do think that this pandemic has shown us a lot of silver linings in terms of the way that that we can face adversity. I know the Inland Empire has been particularly hard hit by this pandemic. And I think that what we need to take away from that is how do we improve access to health? How do we improve getting a message of unity out to everybody? The other things that I think have been a positive about the Inland Empire in terms of how we rose to face this pandemic was, I think a lot of the hospitals in the area really came together. We had virtual meetings on a weekly basis to talk about how we were going to face this together. And I think our county hospital in Riverside was a great leader in terms of helping us make it through. We're not quite through yet, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And, that has been spoken about a lot in the media, and that's the vaccine. And I'll talk about that a few minutes later. The pandemic has really touched all of our lives in one way or the other. But I think focusing on those things that, the aspects of the pandemic that have brought us together is more important than thinking about the aspects of the pandemic that has kept us apart. We found ways to continue to socialize, whether that be virtually or at a safe social distance in outdoors. We're so lucky that we live in California and that in December, we can still spend time outdoors. You know, it's 70 degrees outside. So I really encourage everybody that I think it is important for us to continue to socialize in safe ways. I do know that some aspects of the pandemic have highlighted a lot of this difficulty with mental health and things like that. And I think that the pandemic has highlighted how our communities need better access to mental health. And I know a lot of folks are working on that right now in terms of bringing more mental health resources into the community and also advertising the mental health resources that we do have. But I think one of the main things that we can do to combat depression and isolation is to continue to try to see other people in a safe way. So again, outdoor gatherings that aren't very crowded, that you can maintain 6 feet of social distance, that you can wear a mask during, those are great ways to continue to be able to socialize during the holiday season when we really want to avoid having gatherings indoors and you know, in a close personal space where you won't be wearing a mask and things like that. In terms of, you know, the community's ability to continue to hold COVID at bay, I think it's really important that we don't overwhelm our hospitals. So those big gatherings, the family gatherings where there might be a lot of spread are probably not the best idea. But again, outdoors is good. I've been very proud in Hemet of the way the city has come together to ensure that, you know, facilities like skilled nursing facilities and hospitals and other office practices have enough resources to handle continuing to see patients. And it's because of that that I think we should all be aware that our hospitals are still able to care for patients that don't have COVID. And it is a safe environment for patients who are experiencing things like chest pain, are concerned about stroke, are concerned about maybe, you know, developing some type of cancer or at least getting screened for cancer. You don't have to be afraid to continue to engage in coming to your doctor or coming to the hospital if you need to. And I really want to stress that because I do think that a lot of people have avoided coming to the hospitals because they think that they might get COVID. And we're doing everything we can in the hospitals to prevent that. And as each day goes on, I think those defenses are getting stronger and stronger. So please don't avoid coming to the hospital if you do need to come to the hospital. You know, you might have heard concerns in the media that the hospitals are overwhelmed and that we don't have enough capacity to see patients. But I definitely want everyone to know, don't take that as a message that you shouldn't come to the hospital if you need help. Certainly we have been challenged, but again, I do think that all the hospitals have come together. We're trying to work together to handle the pandemic in as smooth and safe way as possible. The last thing I wanted to say is that, you know, as we look forward to the new year, I think that we can look forward now, we can say confidently, to a vaccine coming. What does that mean for our public? You know, when is our public going to be able to benefit from this vaccine? So we do think that vaccines will start shipping out to hospitals and for administration to elderly, to folks that live in skilled nursing facilities and long-term care facilities, as well as healthcare workers. It seems like those are the folks that that we kind of want to prioritize with a plan to get the vaccine to everyone that that should have it eventually. So I think that, you know, in the new year, I'm hoping by spring, again, we have a lot of things have yet to be planned out, but I think by spring, we can potentially get back to somewhat more normal activities, but everything remains to be seen. But I just wanted to send that message of hope that that I am very optimistic that things are going to get better, and that we really are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel here. In terms of my work during this pandemic, I've kind of been on the side of planning and trying to see what is predicted in the near future in terms of what we need to do right now to be able to face tomorrow with confidence. And I would say that because of the vaccine becoming available, I feel very optimistic. And I'm so happy that we're heading into the holiday season with that hope and with that glimmer of brighter days ahead. As I was mentioning before, the pandemic has touched all our lives. It's touched my life very, very personally. I myself developed the infection as well as my immediate family. But I was very, very pleased with the outreach of local healthcare providers and coworkers and everyone just sending a lot of empathy in terms of hoping that I got well as soon as possible. And, you know, again, it was very touching. And so I think the biggest silver lining of this pandemic has been that we really saw how much people care. And I think that it's been a blessing in that way. But it's been very difficult in terms of the folks that we've lost. It's just been, you know, there's been a lot of people whose lives have been negatively affected by this in many ways, whether that be financial or personal, losing a family or other family, a friend or another loved one. So I just wanted to say that, you know, for those folks, we're with you. We're trying to sort of make this pandemic go away as soon as possible. But until it does go away, I think that facing this in unity and really showing how much we care for others by protecting them from the infection by wearing masks and things like that is a good idea. And just remember that even if you don't think that you might be affected or infected, it's still a good idea to follow the recommendations of our public health partners and continue to wash our hands, continue to maintain social distance, and continue to wear masks until we can no longer do so. But I do think that time is coming. So thank you so much. I want to wish everybody happy holidays, and I'm very much looking forward to 2021. I hope that 2021 brings a lot of happiness and a lot of health. Thank you so much.
Binge break number 1 coming right up. And it's exactly like it sounds. It's a break from binging, sitting, lounging, relaxing, not exercising. Ditch the popcorn, your phone, the blanket, and get on up. It's time for the warm-up sofa stretch. Let's get moving. Yes. And just so you know, the next time you see me, which may or may not be soon, we're totally breaking a sweat.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. I'm very glad to be here at the annual Women Business and Wellness Conference. I'm very happy to be here and share my thoughts on what has been probably the most extraordinary year of my career, and I think of all of our careers in our lifetime. And my name is Lisa Brandel. I am the Chief Operating Officer for the County of Riverside. The County of Riverside is an organization that has over 22,000 employees, over 40 different departments, and provides services to our residents over 7,400 square miles. And we have about 2.4 million residents in our county. And we have all kinds of different micro economies, from our wine country, from our mountains in Idlewild, the beautiful vistas in Palm Springs, world famous Coachella Music Fest, and the beautiful Mission Inn in Riverside County. So we span a lot of different micro economies and all kinds of things going on. But one of the things I want to talk to you about is how we manage resources and how we're continuing to manage resources during the pandemic. And so I don't think we or I thought it would last this long, and everything happened so quickly in the spring. One day we were working, and the next day we were sending everyone home and to work from home. And it was a kind of a chaotic time. Our county also runs a regional hospital, which is off the 60 freeway in Moreno Valley and serves everybody in our county. It's a public hospital. And so we were there on the front line. We have a lot of federally qualified health clinics, and we were worried about getting tests. We were worried about getting respirators. We were worried about having enough nurses, worried about having enough doctors. And so we activated our emergency operations center, which is still active today. But what I can share is the extraordinary teamwork that has occurred throughout our county, not just with our county employees, but our education, our Office of Education, our 17 regional hospitals worked together to ensure that we had enough beds for those that were affected, because we were definitely afraid that we were going to have, all of our hospitals were going to be overfilled with capacity for ICU, treating those that were affected by COVID. And we were all of us, just like you, were watching the news, where we were seeing what was happening in Washington and in New York and how they were overflowed. And that was our biggest fear. And we took a lot of great measures. We were at the forefront, probably in the nation, to advocate wearing face coverings through our public health officer. And as you all know, it's been very contentious. It's very stressful. People are afraid of losing their livelihoods, rightly so. And so our county has had to respond, not just on the front line for providing tests, for ensuring that we have hospital beds, but to meeting the needs of our community, our small business community, which, as you know, is the backbone of the American economy, and making sure that those that are afraid of being evicted, that we provide some kind of resources on rental assistance, not just for those that are renting, but also those that own homes. They have to make mortgage payments. We have to think of all of these things in a holistic, kind of organic fashion. And so we're moving a million miles a minute, and it feels like it's been 10 years, and it's really only been 8 months. And one of the things that's going on now is we are, experiencing another surge. And again, I continue to be amazed at the amazing work that all of our county departments do, our leaders, our elected officials. We were a direct recipient of CARES Act funding because of the size of our county. And our board was able to allocate funds for rental assistance, for providing housing for homeless individuals, because you don't want homeless individuals who are ill with COVID, out wandering around. And so we were able to house hundreds of people, which is an amazing feat. We were able to provide electronic devices for K through 12. We provided $10 million in CARES Act funding to our Office on Education to provide those electronic devices for those kids that need it to continue their education. We also provided loans or grants to small businesses and to our nonprofit communities, to private schools. I think we've done a fantastic job providing the needs and the services and equipment that's needed for all of our different businesses. We created an SOS team of different departments. We had somebody from behavioral health, somebody from public health, we had somebody from maybe environmental health reaching out. We created a business ambassador program to help small businesses modify their business so that they could continue to have customers, so that they would have PPEs. We also created a very similar structure for our skilled nursing facilities, for our most vulnerable populations. They're the most vulnerable to COVID, and we helped train the workers, provide PPE. We were out there responding when they needed help. And we continue to do that. We continue to work with our 17 different regional hospitals. We have a great partnership with UCR School of Medicine, a great foundational relationship with Loma Linda, the world famous Loma Linda University Hospital. So all of these things we were able to tap into. And it's not without some fits or struggles, and we're still learning. In the very beginning, we didn't know how, we had an idea of how COVID was spread. We didn't know how long it lasted or how long you were affected or when you would come down with symptoms. Now we know a lot more. And so we're working hard to present and provide information to our residents. We launched the Masks Are Medicine campaign, where we distributed over 10 million masks to all of our residents and all of our businesses through partnerships with nonprofits. So there's a lot of different resources that we do have to manage, that we do continue to manage. And so we continue to work with our federal and state partners to ask for additional assistance post December, because as we are finding out, our hospitals are now getting full again. That's no secret, and we're very worried. And so we need to stress the assistance that we need from our federal and state partners to continue to fight. There is hope, though. We have good news. You read about it. There are vaccines being developed, and we have the infrastructure in place to distribute vaccines as soon as we get them. They are going to most likely vaccinate those that are frontline workers. That makes sense. You know, our public safety, our officers, our nurses, our doctors, our clinicians, those that are out there. But eventually there'll be enough vaccines for all of us. So I am hopeful that we will get through this in 2021 so that we can build the foundation for our residents and open up our small businesses who have been hammered by this. And so we want to provide that beacon of hope for everyone. And I am very heartened to hear about the vaccines being developed. And I know that all of us in our region will work closely together. Our cities have been excellent partners in providing testing sites. Well, those testing sites will be vaccination sites. We're going to keep them ready for deployment in Indio, in Paris, in Riverside, in Corona. So we are working with our federal partners to plan the deployment of the vaccine to those that want it. And I am very confident and heartened to hear of the effectiveness of it. And I do remain optimistic that we will get through this, but we're all going to work together to do this. And I know that we will. And so that we can provide a future for our children and our families and see and hug our families again. When we sent everyone home when the pandemic first hit, we're talking 22,000 employees. Now, not everybody went home, right? So we have a hospital, we have nurses, we have doctors, we have clinics open. They're still out there. They're still receiving and meeting the needs of patients and clients. We have our sheriff's officers. We operate a jail, and we have to take care of those that are in our jails. And so our deputies are constantly exposed to those out in the public, and they've done a great job helping us spread the word of the importance of covering your face, maintaining your space, right, for COVID. We have our social workers in DPSS that were out visiting clients. We also created a virtual world where clients could apply for benefits, apply to our Workforce Development Center online. Now, we've always had an online presence, but this is where we ratcheted up a notch, right? So our assessor clerk recorder went almost all virtual. So I am amazed at how quickly we were able to switch to this virtual kind of world, and how it's also helped us realize that the workplace may be changing. We know that we can provide services working from home from our residents. We do know that we do need to meet with clients and residents, so we created appointment services. We created drive-up services where somebody like Veteran Services, somebody wants to apply for benefits or has a question. You can make a phone appointment, pull up into the parking lot, somebody will come out and take your information on an iPad. So we were able to turn this these needs around so quickly, and we are continuing to provide services. We are continuing to provide and distribute CalFresh benefits, WIC benefits. We are able to engage with our child care centers to make sure that the child care centers are open for our essential workers. So we've created and developed strong relationships with our Office of Education. So all of our employees have been able to rethink how they do their work. Even the supervisors, you know, their direct supervisors, their managers have rethought what is a workplace for our county. And so what I can envision in the future is that we create these virtual hubs where we have different disciplines, where people plug in and they engage in different regions. They live in the Southwest version, so we create a hotel, motel kind of hub setup where you just plug in your computer and you're able to work from there. So our county employees have done an awesome job of meeting the needs of all of our residents and making it work when we had to make it work. So for 2021, on our small businesses, it is going to be tough. It is going to be a struggle. But the more that we can work together as a community and as a region, we can lessen the impact of COVID so that we can open up again. And I remain hopeful that we will be seeing, the inland Southern California region will be seen a little bit differently. We have a different makeup, a different workforce. And so I remain hopeful that that will be recognized, and that so that our workers can continue to go to work and then also frequent the small businesses that are out there, the restaurants, the salons, the other different kinds of small businesses that we frequent on a daily basis, then we don't realize how dependent they are upon our business. So our county remains dedicated and focused on our small businesses. Our supervisors are very focused on engaging with the small business community. We have an economic recovery task force that's made up of different industries in our county, which includes hospitality, entertainment, we have logistics, we have services and other kinds of businesses that are part of this economic recovery task force that is out there emphasizing the needs for our region to appeal to our federal and state partners to continue the good work that we're doing. And so what I want to close with is my hope and my optimism for a new year. We've lived through this year. It continues to batter us, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I firmly believe that with our vaccine development that's going to be deployed from the federal government, we will be the frontline distributors of the vaccine. We will ensure that our residents are protected. We will engage with our small communities to help them open back up, to expand their services, provide a safe workplace for their workers and also for their customers. And so we will protect those that are most vulnerable at the same time, which we continue to do. But we will get through this. It will seem like forever, but we will look back upon this time and remember how we all came together, and that how we will continue to work together in 2021 to make it way better than 2020.
Hello everyone, my name is Montone Quinlivan. I'm CEO of Futuro Health. I'm delighted you could join me today for a workshop on 5 tips for making the journey from immigrant to thought leader. I'm so delighted to have a chance to share some of my personal story and some of my learnings, and to be able to pay it forward. And hopefully what you'll find by the end of this session is that you'll have some tips and strategies for making a similar journey if that is what you so desire. A quick background on what I'm doing these days. I've had a career that has spanned the private sector, the public sector, and now the nonprofit sector. Here in the nonprofit sector, I launched Futuro Health, which is a nonprofit that was established with $130 million in commitment from Kaiser Permanente and SEIU United Healthcare Workers. So we really focused on bringing members from the community into new allied health careers, because even California alone has a shortage of 500,000 allied health workers. And we want to be able to improve the health and wealth of communities by growing the largest network of credentialed workers in the nation, starting in California. You may have a question on what is allied health. It's basically all the individuals, healthcare providers who would touch you, for example, should you be in a car accident, the emergency medical technician that comes to, to meet you at your car, to the medical assistant who checks you in at the hospital, to the folks who take your x-ray, everybody all the way until you exit the hospital, minus the doctors and some of the nurses, they are all allied health workers. And they're trained mostly through credentials that are more than a high school degree, but less than a bachelor's degree. Well, we're gonna come back to Futuro Health, and I do have an ask of you at the end of this presentation, but let's talk about your journey, and are there some tips that can help you get to this point where you are a thought leader as well? So a little bit background on myself. We all come by many labels, and I want to share with you some of the labels that I hold, because maybe we share some of those in common. So the first one is the label of change maker. I was named White House Champion of Change by the Obama administration for leading transformation in higher education. I was also named California Steward Leader for bringing together the private, public, and civic sectors in support of social mobility for residents throughout the state. And I was named Sacramento Magazine's Powered by Women as a leader who inspires positive change. And here's a wonderful set of pictures of students here on the left, the maker space, where these were reforms that I had put in place to help students learn these skill sets in the community colleges, which in California is the largest system in the nation. And that work also brought me to the White House here. I'm posing with incoming First Lady Jill Biden. Now let's talk about a second label that I go by, executive. Some of you may have this label. So as an executive, I mentioned that my career spanned both the private and the public sector, and now in the nonprofit. When I was in government, I served as Executive Vice Chancellor, driving the workforce mission of the California Community Colleges, as I mentioned, the largest system of higher education in the nation. And I oversaw its growth from $100 million to over $1 billion by the time that I left. And in the private sector, prior to that, I was head of workforce development for a company of 20,000 men and women. I took the company from having no opinion in workforce development to becoming a nationally recognized industry best practice. So executive is another label that I go by. Now here's a label maybe many of you can feel affinity with: spouse and a parent. So my husband and I have been married for over 20 years. We have two teenagers, ages 17 and 13, and share all the journeys of a parent and a spouse with all of you. And then I want to share one more label that I go by, and it is the label of immigrant. So in 1975, the war displaced my family, and I became an immigrant to this country as a first-generation immigrant. So this label has meaning because it lets you know that my journey began at the very starting line, or maybe even behind the starting line. And if I could find my way to becoming a change maker, an executive, a spouse, and a parent, you can too, if you so desire. See, in 1975, war displaced my parents from what they knew. And with 3 small children in tow, including me, my family escaped out of Vietnam and arrived in the United States with not much more than the clothes that they had on our back. So growing up, I remember how hard it was for my parents who had to work to make ends meet. And interestingly enough, they never expressed regret for what they lost. Rather, they were always grateful for the opportunity ahead. And so, not surprisingly, my parents could not give us much advice on how to navigate career and life since they were new to the American way. So after I finished college, I ambled into my journey of work and life, uncovering tips along the way. And so if you're interested, I would like to pay these forward to you today for your consideration. So 5 tips. Let me start with the first one. The first one, I actually learned this phrase doing my MBA at Stanford University. Tame your internal voice of judgment. Tame your internal voice of judgment. You know, the loudest voice that keeps you from realizing your own potential is not that of your boss, not of your parents, not of your spouse, but really it's your own voice. Like, do you have times when in your head you're hearing this voice of judgment speaking to encourage, not to encourage you, but really discourage you? You know, does it say, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, I don't look the part, or if I try this, I'm going to fail and look foolish? I remember my voice of judgment as a Vietnamese female having a real cultural overlay, always telling me that I was not acting proper for what is expected of a female in Vietnamese culture. I remember also that this voice of judgment played out at one time when I was at work. It was so loud that I blurted out, oh, I can't, I've never done it before. And thank goodness, in a moment of coaching, my wise and patient boss replied back, you'll figure it out. And he was right. I did figure it out, with some help, that is. And so, interestingly enough, in the future work, many things will need to be figured out. And retraining your voice of judgment to encourage and not discourage is going to be a really important tip. So tame your internal voice of judgment. Tip number 2, broaden and deepen your expertise. You know, you're at this event because you have a solid foundation on which you base your career journey. Don't stop there. Keep learning. Stay current. There are so many ways. And remember to ask your supervisors and mentors for projects. For example, I'm interested in working with the company's biggest clients in order to get that experience. Or I want to have a global assignment or project. Or I want to work on digital transformation. Remember, it's really important to ask, because that's how someone's going to help create the opportunity for you. And don't limit your learning to just opportunities that are inside your organization. Attend workshops and conferences, take online courses to round out your knowledge, do pro bono work, and serve on commissions and nonprofit boards. These are all different ways to learn. My road to becoming an expert took the latter, more nonlinear route as well. I started with a desire to better understand community colleges and its role in workforce development. Then I committed time to reading the research. Then I did pro bono work, volunteer work, essentially. Then I began to serve on commissions and boards that related to the topic of community colleges. And before turning, and did all this before turning the work into my day job. And this was my learning journey. And it got me positioned with the expertise and the social network, you know, the professional network, to be the best person for the job when the job became available as Executive Vice Chancellor. And it was the people whom I met along the way who recommended me for the opportunities. And those opportunities never appeared on any job boards. So again, tip number 2, broaden and deepen your expertise. So hopefully these are some useful tips. Tip number 3, do collect mentors along the way. And I will tell you, my mentors don't look like me. My 2-time boss and mentor was a man, Peter Darby, who was Chief Financial Officer in his 40s when I first worked for him. And he hired me again when he became CEO of a big company. Marsha Johnson was Chief Human Resources Officer of the Southern Company and a prominent African-American leader in Atlanta, and we met through an executive development program. Gail Shetler had stepped down as Lieutenant Governor of Colorado and got paired with me in a mentoring program for executive women who were mid-career. Gail Shetler gave me my first tutorial on how to navigate government. See, my mentors were of different ages, different ethnicities, different genders, different experiences, different strengths, and lived even in different states. And thanks to all of them, I made better decisions in navigating career and life. And really, I avoided common potholes. So do collect mentors along the way. Tip number 4, feedback is a gift. I know it doesn't feel like it sometimes, but feedback is truly a gift. Yes, this one is tough. You don't have to 100% agree with the feedback, but if it comes from a person of credibility, what I mean is it's not coming from some random social media person, it is important to take it graciously and simply say thank you. After you emotionally process it, take the time to discern whether there is a nugget of truth in what you heard. So back when I was a newly minted MBA, Peter Darby, my mentor, told me I seemed nervous. I was too quiet during business meetings and that my voice trembled. I said thank you, and he actually offered to send me to a public speaking coach, which I used. Let me give you another example. Later in my career, Marsha Johnson observed that I was repeating an unhelpful behavior that was holding me back. And I said, thank you. And I began to work on breaking that cycle. And once I actually broke that cycle, great opportunities started coming before me, and I was able to do great things. So feedback is a gift. Do learn to say thank you. Number 5, this is maybe the scariest of all, which is to intersect the future. You know, we're all very busy in the here and now, but don't forget to look up and outwards in the 10-year future. Consider what might look different when your profession or your organization or your industry, how will it look in that future of work? So play along with me for a second, will you? So just imagine, what if in the 10-year future, everything rote and repetitive in your profession is automated and done by machines? What kind of work will really value the human touch? Your colleagues can be humans, robots, or avatars. What skills would make you a good colleague to them? Let's imagine technology platforms and their algorithms become the new middle management to assign and match work. This means your online reputation is a must, not a nice to have, because your reputation data is what an algorithm can read, how others rate you, what experiences are in your portfolio, your demonstrated competencies, your earned credentials, your ability to display who you are connected with and who you can influence, and so on. How will you build your online reputation? Next, you self-identify through a personalized learning record not tied to any education institution or employers. So by scanning in your personal QR code, an employer can see your skills, experiences, formal and informal education and training, all verified and recorded in blockchain. How will you engage in lifelong learning in a way that differentiates you from other candidates? Workers increasingly go independent. Being independent comes so commonplace that people will no longer say they go to work, because that implies an outdated notion that work is a physical location with a physical boss. Instead, people will say they do work without expectations of going anywhere physical, like in the pandemic. What do you know about being your own business? Environmental stressors have become so pronounced that carbon emission becomes strictly enforced. How would work occur differently? Perhaps a virtual world becomes where you collaborate. And how skilled are you? Because of distrust of the pervasive use of algorithms, organizations that emphasize transparency in their culture begin to stand out in a good way? What if everything you type and everything you text for work becomes visible to the rest of the organization? Privacy norms will have changed. What do you think? All right, I shared with you all these possibilities in the 10-year future of work. Let me roll you back to the here and now. What would you do differently to future-proof yourself and your organization for this future world of work? So remember, it's important to intersect the future, and that often takes a moment of reflection to look ahead so that you can intersect it. So hopefully these five tips can be of help to you. Tame your voice of judgment. Remember, you got this. Broaden and deepen your expertise, especially skills that are valued in the future. Collect mentors along the way. Take feedback as a gift. And lastly, intersect the future. Periodically look ahead even as you focus on today. And do remember, we are all immigrants into the future. Hopefully these 5 tips are of great help to you, as they were lessons learned through my journey from immigrant to thought leader. And I also want to share with you another way that you can expand your knowledge and look ahead into the future work. We launched a podcast series called Workforce RX with Futuro Health. And in there, I interview leaders and innovators who are thinking ahead about the future of work, the future of education, the future of care. And you can download these podcasts wherever you normally listen to them, or at this link that I provide here. But this is another way to get yourself thinking about what's coming ahead so that you can intersect the future. So enjoy these podcasts. So before I end, I wanted to mention something that I spoke about at the very beginning, which is the importance of having a good healthcare workforce for every community. This pandemic has certainly shown that there has been disparity of healthcare outcomes. And it starts being addressed by making sure that all communities have a proportional share of diverse and qualified healthcare workers in their own backyard. And in California alone, by 2024, it's expected that we'll need 500,000 new healthcare workers to serve the increasingly growing and graying population. And so a campaign that we have right now under tunuevofuturo.com is to invite 1,000 bilingual Spanish speakers to consider healthcare careers, starting with taking a free language training course. The training course is all about learning vocabulary that is important to healthcare careers. And we hope that you can help get this link and get the word out. The course is free. It's done at one's own pace on a mobile device. For example, if you're in between cooking or waiting for the careers or in between jobs, if we all want better equity in healthcare, we need workers to look like the communities they serve. If you can write down 3 names, take a screenshot, take a screenshot of this a slide here, pass it along to these 3 people, I would so appreciate it, because you will be passing along opportunity for them and joining me in paying it forward. So thank you again for spending time with me to think about the journey from immigrant to thought leaders. And I hope that the 5 tips were of help to you. And I really appreciate your help in advance to pass this URL on to 3 people who are bilingual Spanish who may consider careers in healthcare. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luana Lindsay. I am the small business leader for Wells Fargo, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with all of you today. This is a great opportunity to connect. I know it's not what we normally like to do. We like to meet in person, have that interaction. But as we're learning the new normal with the pandemic, I think this is a great way for us to get to share some thoughts, some ideas, share some really valuable information that may be beneficial to you as a small business owner, and get an update. So on today's agenda, what we have is we have small business index highlights. We also have key indicators, payment trends, as well as key business owners' challenges. What we're hearing back from our clients is so critical at this time, and to be able to have a forum to share what some people are sharing with us is great information for you. It may apply, it may not, but hopefully it will give you an added insight to where we are with our small business owners and what they're feeling and experiencing in these times. Where we get our small business index highlights is we do a survey every quarter with the Gallup organization. And this, we survey different clients, we ask them different questions, and it really gives us the insight on what customers are feeling so that we can share that with all of you. So, as you see in the chart, I'm going to explain it a little bit. It actually goes back to 2007 all the way up to fourth quarter of 2020. And you can see by following the lines, the first one is the orange line. You can see where we are. This line represents overall optimism. So while the overall index score rose 12 points in optimism in fourth quarter, we know it's still only about half, 50% of where the optimism was in 2019. So good news, but of course it's not where we were in 2019, which was really quite a record-breaking year, I think, for most of our small business owners. Now the next line is I guess you'd call it a purple line. That is where our small business owners are feeling in their present situation. So regarding optimism in the present situation, we did see some sharp declines again in Q2 and Q3, and it rose slightly in Q4, which is good news. And then the blue line, that indicates future expectations. What do our customers, our business owners feel? How are they sharing their anxiety or positivity of the future? So with that, it continued to rise in Q4, which is great news. But as you see the chart, it really indicates that there is a continued resilience from our business owners, but that the optimism level remains half of what it was in 2019. So business owners are indicating that they recognize the long road ahead of us. So what are the challenges for small business owners? Let's hear what they're telling us. So some of the challenges that they're telling us is that loss of business. They're either closing or what has the coronavirus, how has that impacted their business? So I'll give you an example that we have heard. That's really with our doctors, medical, dentists. Some of them had been severely impacted by the coronavirus. We have doctors that said, I may retire in 2 or 3 years. But with the current environment, they've said, you know what, this is too much. I'm close to retirement. I'm just going to close up my shop. I maybe don't want to go through all of the safety measures and the different things that they'll need to keep their practice up and vibrant in these challenging times. So, interestingly enough, we have a lot of doctors, dentists that work for other senior doctors that are now looking to go out on their own and finding ways to become their own small business owners. So kind of the ones that are finding it not as interesting to stay in business right now, and that it has opened up a lot of opportunities. So we do see that through this pandemic, while we know that overall it's made a significant impact in a lot of our small businesses, we actually have clients out there that Maybe we're manufacturing safety masks. Maybe they are in the hand sanitizer business. So there is opportunity out there. And what's interesting is seeing how businesses are adjusting to the new normal, finding different ways. We do know the entrepreneurial spirit is so strong amongst our small business owners. So that's the good news. Some of the things that we have also noticed is just the financial stability with cash flow. Interestingly enough, a lot of our small business owners, they have more money now than they've ever had. Why has that been? Well, we had a nice stimulus, CARES Act, the PPP. I know Wells Fargo, for an example, we did about 194,000 PPP loans, helping our small businesses get the resources that they needed. With that, 56,000 of those loans were done here in Greater California, which is nice to know. Of course, we do have we have such a vibrant business community in California. And the really good news is that in the 194,000 PPP loans that we did, Wells Fargo had 78% of all the loans that they did, which was significant, were under 50,000, helping business owners just like you are. So it was really going into what I consider the right hands to really help us get through this really challenging time. So other concerns are, they said taxes were a concern of about 5%. Advancement in technology, as we've discussed today, and the cost of technology and the implementation is about 5%. Government overall in general, about 4%, and then government regulation about 4%. Because as we've seen, we've had different requirements put on our restaurateurs and retail shops as well. So this really has been insightful and helpful to understand where our small business owners are coming from. So what have been some of the key indicators? So our fourth quarter survey says that the journey to economic recovery for small businesses would not be a short one. That is an indicator that we are seeing more and more. I think some of us hoped it was a month, maybe 2 months. I know me, myself, I thought, this will be over in a couple of months. Well, now that we're long into that and without a real recovery or opening of business, again, we are seeing that is going to take a lot of time. About half, 46% of our respondents continue to report decreases in revenue over the past 12 months. So I think that's important to know. And if you're one of those clients or those small business owners, know you're in with good company. It is a challenging time. The number of owners that felt the economy was growing climbed 9 points to 29%, but 33% of our clients still maintained it was continuing to slow, while a combined 38% said it was in a recession. They felt it was in a recession or a depression. When asked about the timeline for the economy to recover, 28% said it would not come until the second half of 2021, while over 1/3 said they did not anticipate a recovery in 2021. So I think we've all gotten a reality check on how fast and how it's going to impact our small business owners. Over half, about 57%, also said the recovery of businesses like theirs from the impacts of COVID-19 would take until the second half of 2021 and beyond. So some details that they gave us and how they were feeling and what their anticipation of next year was, in setting really good realistic goals on how to continue to stay in business and then again continue to increase and build on a recovery plan. All right, so they did ask them, how do you feel about when you would be back to recover from pre-pandemic levels? Revenues up to about 35% or more, about 26% of our clients said that. So we know it's not a fast recovery, but it's a slow and steady recovery. So let's talk about payment trends. And as we said, we've all learned how we're doing business differently in this new normal, this pandemic. I think one of the things that was most prevalent is, how do our small business owners accept payment? How are they getting paid? What does their business look like? If you were in the restaurant business, are you doing now more delivery, more takeout? And it really had a way to focus in on what does that look like. So in fourth quarter, our survey also found that payment methods among small business owners, sharing their insights and trend, that has dramatically changed. While the pandemic has led to some shifts in merchant payment offerings and customers' buying behaviors, the preferred method of payments continues to be cash and checks. But so many of our business owners, now the survey said about 25% of owners have said they've stopped accepting or reducing their acceptance of cash or checks. And that's, for good reason, keeping their employees safe, keeping their customers safe. So I'm sure some of you have walked into your local merchant there to pick up an order, and they have only allowed merchant card payment. I do have a fabulous success story, and this is kind of how we're all adapting and changing to this current environment. We had a business owner that called us frantically, a restaurant called us frantically when they were shut down here in California. And I have to say, with technology, with different ways to apply our services, we were able to get that business owner with an application in for a merchant payment processing. We were able to get them credit approved, the machinery, and up and running within 24 hours. Now, I can tell you in the past, that would not have happened, but it's all of us coming together, helping, sharing, finding ways to think out of the box, and what can we do to help one another, us as a financial institution. And then I'm sure you're sharing many success stories within your business segment with other local vendors or business owners. So some good positive things are coming out of this pandemic. So I think we're all going to learn to be better innovators. Maybe sense of urgency and delivery, I think, is things that have really come out of this pandemic. All right. At the 16% of our clients who indicated that their customers would prefer more payment options, the leader of these options was payment via phone and with a debit or credit card, which I think is interesting as well. So we will have more details, more strategies, more simplified ways. People are learning to use the internet and our digital services much more than we ever had in the past. So continue to stay, I guess, in a learning mode. Again, for some of us with a little gray around the temples, it's a little bit more challenging, but guess what? We can do it. We're in this together, and I've got a few youngsters on my team that are always there willing to help me and show me ways to use the technology that we have going forward. All right, so one thing we do know is that our owners remain resilient, and while COVID-19 continues to really weigh on our small businesses, owners are focused on staying positive and continuing to make thoughtful decisions. I think that's one of the things that has come out is the thoughtful decisions, really looking at things, really analyzing their business plans. What's their next strategy going to be? Maybe what's their next product or service that they're going to offer? Is it changed slightly? 69% of our business owners rated their company's current financial situation as good or somewhat good. I think that's great news to hear. The measure lifted to 73% when asked from 12 months from now, that they're even anticipating more continued growth. So that's good news to hear. And it just sparks that optimism that is always so prevalent within our small business owners. Indicators showing that a deliberate approach to weathering the storm in 2020 include only 23% of owners acknowledging investing in their business this year, and only 13% reported adding employees. So we know that they are being very thoughtful in how we're going about business, how they're spending their resources, and looking at, like I said, ways to continue to thrive or at least survive during this pandemic. So some really good information there. For the next 12 months, business owners hope to increase those numbers with 30% investing in their businesses and 25% of them adding new staff. So again, there's some that are holding back and there's some that are flourishing and able to bring on more employees and continue developing and innovating their business. Owners do seem to be acknowledging that the challenge of COVID-19 continues to bring their business, in particular with the resurgence in the cases across the country. So while I think when we get hopeful, there is times when we have to take a step back because we do see quite the roller coaster ride with the resurgence. Hopefully with the new vaccinations out or coming soon, maybe we will get a little leveling off in this and people will continue to gain confidence and be more secure with their small business. One thing that I think has just continued to shine and give me such inspiration is the entrepreneurial spirit that defines a small business owner, and that is to all of you. It almost doesn't deflect them from their goals and their desire to be a small business owner. They reinvent themselves. They continue to find ways to learn and adapt. And in a challenging economic environment, they understand this is a great time, maybe for opportunity and continued growth and ways to continue to learn and grow and develop in their with their small business and using all the resources and the connections that we have to help our small business owners. So I can really say my hat's off to all of you small business owners. What an amazing job you've done through this challenging time, continuing to support our communities, your customers, your employees. You really are the heart of America, and you really deserve such a great congratulations and really a heartfelt thank you for all that you do on a daily basis and all that you provide to our economy. And just well done is all I can say. And it has been a pleasure to talk with you today. I hope some of these insights were beneficial for you, seeing some of the charts. And again, we welcome you always into a Wells Fargo bank, but if it's not us, please see your local banker, see what they have to offer and continue to keep you and help you through this challenging time. But all that you do is very much appreciated. Thank you all for this opportunity to share some thoughts and ideas with you.
I don't feel that I am the boss. I feel that I am the worker with my team. We are workers the same. I am the same as you. We are going to work together. We are going to share together. Because all together we are going to grow. My name is Domitila Tapia. I grow the strawberries and I started to picking strawberries in 2015. When I came to United States, I started working picking strawberries with a company. And then later I stopped. I went to school because I would like to learn a little bit English. Well, the motivate to be a farmer is because you are your own boss. You grow your plants, and then the plants that you grow, it's like you have like one kid in your home. You have to take care because you see the plants when the plants they are sick. The plants they are like the same as us. They need like vitamins. They need fertilizer. They need everything. I feel happy because I feel that like my kids. I decide to do my own farm, to teach my daughters and grow with my daughters and help my daughters how to grow the strawberries, to be the own boss. my husband, he helped me a lot. He's strong, and then he helped me a lot. I feel happy. When I came and I go and I see the plants, they're growing, how they are, and I talk with my plants. My husband says, what are you talking with the plants? I feel that my plants, they're my baby.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Yang, and it's my pleasure to be here today to share with you guys how living trusts are so important during crisis, especially this year. So I'm going to start by going through the difference between a will and a trust. Both are a part of the estate planning process, but a lot of people don't understand the difference between the two. And they're always asking me, what is the difference between a will and a trust? How do I know which one to pick? So a will is a declaration, a piece of paper that someone signs to show how they want to distribute their property after they die. So that's the important part of that definition. It's for after death only. It doesn't come into play when the person who created the will is still alive, right? It only changes the assets and distributes the assets after the person passes away. And there's a lot of different benefits for a will. You can distribute your property to your beneficiaries. You can save on taxes. You can name fiduciaries. You can even provide for disabled family members. Some key terms for a will is the testator is the person who is creating the will. So if you create a will, you are the testator, and the beneficiary or beneficiaries are the parties who are getting the property upon the testator's death. In California, in order to create a valid will, you have to have it in writing. Verbal wills, verbal promises, I'm going to give you my house when I die, those are not enforceable. It has to be in writing, it has to be notarized, and there has to be a minimum of 2 witnesses present to sign. And that's California law. Other states have different requirements for the number of witnesses. If someone dies and they don't have a will in place, it's called intestate succession. It means that the state will govern who gets the deceased property. And in California, first they will see if there's a spouse. If there's a spouse, the spouse gets everything. If there's no spouse, then they see if there's any children. If there are children, then they get it. If there's no children either, it goes to the parents. If the parents have passed away, then it goes to the siblings. And then last but not least, it goes to the grandparents. If there's no family members, then it goes to the state. Okay, so it's really important to have a will, because if you want your property to go to, say, a charity, say your church, the government is not going to let your money go to the state, to the church, or to a charity, even if you have no family members. They would rather take it for themselves. So the only way to, give it to an organization you care about, or even to a niece or a nephew, one of the family members I didn't list, is to have a will. So how is a trust different? Well, the trust can move assets while you're living. That's why a lot of people refer to it as a living trust. You don't have to wait until the day you leave this earth. You can change assets. You can move your house into the trust, change title now, today. And why would you want to do that? Well, there's also a lot of advantages to it. Number one, you avoid probate. Probate is this expensive, time-consuming process. You got to go through the probate process when someone passes away to fight for what's rightfully yours. It's not good for the beneficiaries. I would not want that for my children. So hopefully you don't want that for your loved ones either. And that's why you would want to have a trust that sets out everything clearly, concisely, and then your beneficiaries, your loved ones, don't have to go through the very stressful probate process. Trust can also provide guardianship proceedings. So you can designate someone to take care of your minor children, for example, if you were to pass away. You can designate someone to manage property for your minor children. You know, say your kids are like, you know, under 18 or even like 18 or 20. They're not old enough to know what to do with a large amount of money or a piece of property. You know, they're probably focused on their studies in school and not worried about how to rent out an apartment building. So when you create a trust, you can designate a trustee, which is someone you trust, to manage the property for the benefit of your children or whoever your beneficiaries are. You can have that trustee rent out, you know, an investment property, for example, and then the rent can go to your children until they reach a certain age. And then when they reach that certain age, then they can obtain those assets. So that's another trust advantage. There's also privacy. A lot of rich people, they don't want the public to know how many assets are under their name. You know, if you go do a search, you know, you can see that they have all this money, and people like going after folks who have deep pockets. So they're more susceptible to lawsuits. So they put everything into a trust. You know, they can call it like the Los Angeles Real Property Management Trust. No one's going to have any idea who that owner is. You know, it's just, it belongs to a trust. So there's the privacy benefit. They can have ownership of lots of properties without worrying about people knowing how much money they have, how many assets they have. And of course, there's tax savings, which we'll get into. Taxes are threefold. There are federal estate taxes. So when someone passes away, 40% of their estate goes to the federal government. That's a lot of money. That's like almost half of everything they owned. Rather than, you know, all that money going to the beneficiaries, 40% goes to the federal government. Some states, in addition to the 40% federal tax, have state taxes. And then there's like inheritance taxes in some states. Fortunately, in California, we don't have state taxes and we don't have inheritance taxes, but we do have that 40% federal estate tax. Well, good thing is there is this thing called the estate tax exemption. And this estate tax exemption does fluctuate on a year-to-year basis. So rewind 5 years to 2016. The estate tax exemption per person was $5.45 million. That means each individual can give away $5.45 million without incurring any 40% federal tax. But you know, most people probably don't have $5 million, but there are a lot of rich people out there that have way more than $5 million. So like say someone has, you know, $50 million. Yeah, $5 million is exempt, but they still have $45 million that they have to pay $20-some million to the government. The tax exemption has been going up. In the current year, it's at $11.58 million. And it's mainly because Trump was president. You know, he represents a lot of rich people. And so he wants to have more tax exemptions. And so he increased it. But that's not to say it's going to continue going up. Whoever, you know, is in power can easily change it right back down to $5 million. So in 2020, while it's $11.58 million, if someone puts their money into a trust, if they put their assets into a trust, they lock down that number. They lock in at this $11.58 million number. And $11.58 million of their estate will be tax-free. Even if next year it goes back down to 5 million, they're good for that 11.58 million. So that's why a lot of people are putting their money into trusts this year to take advantage of that amount, because next year it's uncertain what the numbers are going to turn into. So tax savings is a huge reason why people are putting their money into trust. And this year, especially, at the beginning of the year, folks were setting up trust because of uncertainty. Like when people get COVID, they can die in like 2-3 days. And when they're sick, they're not going to be in the right state of mind to be signing legal documents, right? And in order to have a proper trust document executed, you have to have capacity. So they started finally getting around to setting up their estate planning when they didn't before. Another purpose is this year, the estate tax exemption is high. So they want to be able to secure that number before it goes down later. And then another reason is a lot of people have actually made a lot of money this year from the stock market. They've bought Zoom stock, they've bought Tesla stock or Amazon stock, and they've made a lot of money. And half of that money is going to go to the government if they don't do anything about it. So a lot of clients have been asking me to set up CRTs, which are charitable revocable trusts. CRTs, the money goes into a charity when the person dies, and it saves them a lot of taxes because it's tax-free to the charity. And during the life of the CRT, they can redeem them. They can still collect returns on the money that's invested, as well as interest. So they do get returns, but they're not taxed on as high a level. So those are all benefits. So thank you for tuning in for our presentation on the importance of living trust during crisis today. If you would like to get a copy of the PowerPoint slides or have further questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information can be found on my website, which is yanglawoffices.com. Thank you for tuning in.
Hello, my name is Leah Peterson, and I represent Southern California Gas Company. And I wanted to be able to speak to you today about some of the things that our company has been doing, not only to serve your community, our customers, but also dealing with the different things that have gone on during this past year with the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic. We're a company like yourselves, and we have had to face many of these similar issues that you have done as a business owner and as a representative in your community. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about SoCalGas, because we're not just the company that provides natural gas to your stove for you to cook your food on, or to heat your home, or to utilize for hot water when you take a shower. So as you can see behind me, natural gas is used for my natural gas fireplace, because I am not the kind of woman that's going to go out and chop some wood. It's not my style. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about SoCalGas so that you can think beyond just our stove and heating opportunities that we provide. We are the largest natural gas distribution company in North America. We have over 22 million customers, and we provide distribution through over 5 million meters to both businesses and homes. And we've been in business for over 150 years, even though I'm not that old. But I want you to know that we provide a lot to the community that surrounds us. Now, I wanted to share with you what our response has been as a company in 2020 to the COVID-19 pandemic. We've been able to continue to deliver our natural gas without any type of interruption to the over 22 million customers we serve. When Governor Newsom's March 20th executive order came down, we were determined as essential workers. And that means that we will be continuing to be out in the field, responding to emergencies, coming to your home with masks and gloves to do any type of service on your stoves or other natural gas appliances. We are, as an essential worker, you're going to see us continuing to maintain our infrastructure. And a few other things that we've done that I think is really critical to you, we are no longer, since March, have made any disconnections for non-payment of your natural gas bill. And that includes for businesses as well. And we are not, we've waived any type of late fee. And for your residential customers, we've never charged late fees. Unfortunately, our payment offices, which were a face-to-face contact situation, we've had to close those. But there are other ways that you can pay your bill, either online or you can call our 800 number, which is 800-427-2200, and you can make arrangements for payments that way. I wanted to share with you some of the things that we've done in our community. Since March, we have donated over $2 million back to nonprofit organizations throughout the 500 communities we serve. And some of those actions we've taken is how we've donated to assist laid off workers, to have their job training skills enhanced. I sit on the Riverside County Workforce Investment Board. I'm very proud of that. I've served on that organization for over 15 years. And we were able to donate $25,000 to enhance computer training, to help people shine up their resume, to give them assistance even just in basic job search skills. We've donated over $75,000 to the Inland Empire United Way for food banks, so that we can bring in more food to people who have been laid off or furloughed from their jobs. They've also provided job training and senior meal assistance. And we've also have kept in mind our frontline workers. So myself, with my SoCalGas colleagues, we donated money to our efforts, we were able to serve grab-and-go meals, up to 1,500 grab-and-go meals to both the Riverside Community Hospital and Corona Hospital. And we worked with the Latino Restaurant Association, donating, giving money to them to purchase the meals, but also having them assist us in delivering the meals throughout our service territory. So we've delivered meals to farm workers in Ventura. We've donated meals to different hospital workers to recognize them for their long hours and their hard work. And then in the Inland Empire, I'm very proud to say I've worked with my colleagues and our other gas company employees, donating over $250,000 to the Family Services Association. They've utilized that money to hire more drivers and serve more meals to our high-risk homebound seniors. We've been able to donate and deliver over 40,000 meals in 13 weeks to homebound seniors. And that is throughout the Riverside and San Bernardino County areas. We also bought gift cards from local restaurants to get money back into the community and help keep the restaurant industry going. If you also have friends or family members or seniors that are on fixed incomes, we have a program, it's called our Customer Assistance Program, and you can get information about how to lower your gas bill by 20%. So please follow up on that. We don't want, during this holiday season and the year to come, people going without when there are ways that we can help you. And getting on our Customer Assistance 20% reduction bill program is very easy to do. Some of the other things that we've been involved in is, we're a business and we have almost 8,000 employees, half of which are working from home. And we've been working from home successfully since March. And now we're going to be continuing to do that as we follow, for us, the guidelines laid out by the Center for Disease Control. So that you feel comfortable when we come to your home to service any of your natural gas equipment, We have our employees wear a mask. We will also ask you questions about if anyone in your home has been exposed to COVID, is feeling ill, because we don't want to put our employees at risk. And at the same time, we don't want to be in a situation where we are spreading the disease. As a business, we've also reconfigured our office space so that we've removed desks, spaced them out, and are alternating days for our employees to work. And I know these are things that you are also incorporating in your office and work environment as well. So we've had to adjust our heating and air cleaning systems. We've put in new filters, and we've hired infectious disease specialists to help assist us and guide us in how we can keep our employees safe and secure under these conditions. The other thing as a company that we've done that I really appreciate as an employee is that on a regular basis, our president of our company, our vice presidents, and our department heads hold regular virtual town halls, and they let us know and what their plans for the future are, which is really important because I don't want to be someone else who becomes statistic, and we need to be able to prepare. And a lot of our vice presidents and presidents and directors are also having to homeschool children. They now have elderly family members living with them. So they have a really good understanding about what a lot of our own employees are going through. So for us to be able to have that virtual town hall opportunity and ask them direct questions, and where they conduct surveys to ask us what we can do or what our thoughts are on how we can support not only our customers, but continue the operation of our company successfully through this is really appreciated, I know, by myself and by my colleagues. We've done also a lot of other things that we've made available, and these are just examples that you might be able to want to think about for your own employees. But we provided more online training. And we've provided training not only on how they can stay safe at home under the COVID circumstances by covering their mouths when they cough, simple things, using antibacterial wipes, but also how they can take other classes that they can assist them in their career and continue for them to be able to focus on their future with our company. The other thing is, since this is a business group and is very interested in what they can do to expand their operations during the coming year, we want to be able to do business with you as well. So under the California Public Utilities Commission, they oversee a supplier diversity procurement program. And this is specifically so that women, minorities, disabled veterans, and anyone from the LGBT community can submit their documentation. The easiest way for them to do this is they can get a no-cost certification through the CPUC. It takes approximately 3 to 6 months, and it's valid for up to 3 years. And you can use this certification with other companies that also have diversity supplier programs. Get yourselves certified. Apply with us, let us know. And the easiest way to do that is to go to our website. You can go to SoCalGas.com for your business and look under our supplier diversity programs. And to find out more what the CPUC has to offer, you can look up under cpuc.ca.gov supplier diversity. And last but not least, I wanted to share with you a personal note from myself. This is very unprecedented times, and it's really important for people to be considerate and be kind to others. I know that this is really difficult under these circumstances, and you've had to face a lot of issues with family members becoming ill and the insecurity of your employment in your business. So be kind to others, because you do not know what's going on in their homes, what pressures they have to face with their family and their work. And it really helps, because no matter what, we are all in this together. And on behalf of myself and my colleagues at SoCal Glass, we are very glad to be of service. And we wish you a very successful and happy 2021. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Hello, everyone. This is Marklyn Valdovinos. I'm the Senior Community Impact Director for the American Heart Association. I'm here today to provide a few facts and tips about how to keep your heart healthy. Did you know that every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack? Well, nearly 80% of cardiac events can be prevented, and I'm here today to share some information with you on how to prevent a cardiac arrest. So the risk factors that you cannot control, those are your age, your gender, your heredity, your race, and if you had a previous stroke or a heart attack. Now let's talk about the ones that we can prevent and the ones that we can manage. That is high blood pressure, smoking, high blood cholesterol, lack of regular activity, obesity and overweight, and diabetes. Now, did you know that when you go to the clinic and take your blood pressure, if your bladder is full, your blood pressure will be higher. So remember, run to the restroom before you take your blood pressure to have a more accurate blood pressure reading. Also, did you know that obesity and overweight is also one that can be prevented by healthy eating? And how do we do that? By going to www.heart.org. We have recipes in multiple languages that are so healthy and so fast and easy to make that you and your family can enjoy. So with that, we would also like to invite you to view some of our videos that we have, and also invite you to continue attending and going back to our www.heart.org to find pre-recorded webinars on how to keep your heart healthy. So we have a ton of opportunities for you to learn and to also share with your loved ones. Thank you so much.
Check this out. It's my you impression. Sitting there with no intentions of getting up. Pretty good, huh? But I'm not judging because I'd probably be doing the same. And since the average American watches TV and streaming media for more than 4 hours per day, the American Heart Association made binge breaks. A cool and quick way to get off your booty. That's right, booty. So be ready. We might just make you want to move the next time you binge.
Hello, I am Janice Graham, and I'm the president of the National Association of Women Business Owners in the Inland Empire chapter. I'd like to share a little bit about NAWBO and then also share a couple of tips with you if you don't mind. NAWBO is the only dues-based organization representing the interests of all women entrepreneurs across all industries. And with chapters across the country, we reach far and wide. We have clout and we have impact, and NAWBO is your one-stop resource. NAWBO is celebrating its 45th year in business, and we unify the voices of over 10 million women business owners. And as a business owner myself, I have two businesses actually, Entrepreneurs Insurance Services and Business Style Incorporated. I'd like to share some tips that I think would be quite useful for this time of year and possibly into next year. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they'll be useful into this incoming year. I'd like to share some of the most important tips and tools that you can use in making the most of this video platform that we're in. We all have to recognize that, number one, we have to shift our business. Many of you are working in person or have worked in person, and you're now in an online environment. This is a good time to take a look at the products that you offer your clients. And if they were formerly solely in-person tools, look at how you can navigate and shift them to an online platform. That's going to be huge as we grow into the new year, in a time in which they say we may not be in person again till sometimes in the summer. In many cases, there are corporations that I'm talking to that have no plans of having meetings in person until after July. So think about that. Look at shifting your business and looking at how you can grow online as well. Utilize these video platforms for networking. We're so accustomed to meeting in person. I know at Novel, we've always had lunch meetings or some type of meeting where we can get together, collaborate, give a hug, shake a hand, and that's not possible right now. So how can you look at your business and your environment and really turn the video platforms into an amazing networking tool? Some of the suggestions that I'd like to offer is go to LinkedIn. If you're in business and you have a LinkedIn platform, there are plenty of conversations that are taking place there. There are a lot of groups that you can join and start building relationships. And when you build those relationships, offer to have a cup of virtual coffee with someone. It's very, very simple. If it's someone that's of value that you want to meet and have virtual coffee, send them an email with a Starbucks gift card. Otherwise, tell them to pull up their mug and you'll have a coffee together. Take this and maximize the networking opportunities that are available. If you have an association such as ours with NAWBO, you can also go and reach out to your fellow association members and network as well. And in that networking and building of relationships, ask for introductions, and then you can continue that networking. We're going to make the most of these tools. You also want to educate yourself. I don't know about you, but this year I have been to more conferences and conventions than the airport would allow. In fact, really, our schedules would allow. It has just been back-to-back, concise, precise education, and it's nonstop. So many people are saying that they are Zoomed out or Teamed out or whatever their video platform is. They're tired of it. I think the reality is that maybe they're not tired of the platform as much as they're tired of the content or the flow of content. As the year has gone on, I have seen some amazing conferences and networking opportunities that have become quite creative. In fact, I participated in one where we had to run around and find something that was important to us in business, to our family, and come back on camera and share it. So there's ways to get up out of your seat and get creative and educate yourself in the process. One of the things that I think is extremely important is to show up. And what do I mean by that? Oftentimes we're in these video platforms and the camera is off and maybe you're multitasking. Show up, get dressed, show up and bring your energy. It is so much more powerful to not only you as a participant, but it's also important to the presenter that you show up and you bring yourself, you bring your energy, you present yourself as the professional that you are, because you are a professional. And if we're going to do this for another 6 months or 8 months, you may as well make the most of it and have some fun. You might want to do it in yoga pants. Who knows? But at least if you can show up with the essence of who you are, it really does translate. I've had meetings all year that are literally sometimes back to back. It gets a little tiring, yes, but if you bring that energy and you smile, it will be amazing, not only for yourself, but for those that you're also talking to. So please show up. Hopefully these tips will help you in this video platform, and hopefully you'll come out of this with at least one aha moment, one idea that's going to make this a little bit more exciting for you. Maybe it's going to be creating a business plan or structure around this, maybe a workshop, a course, a webinar, who knows? There's endless opportunity to take advantage of this and make a lot of money. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce a couple of my colleagues. I am so pleased and proud to introduce my fellow NAWBO sisters. But before I do, I'd also like to invite you all to visit us at NAWBO. Our website is www.nawbo-ie.org. And if you're watching me, then you belong. And if you're a gentleman, you belong as well. So please check us out. We're here as advocates for you. We are here to represent you and look at the laws that affect you and your business. So a lot of people don't understand the advocacy part, but it's really us looking at things that are going to affect you, such as the 1099 laws that have come into place. We have fought to help women get on corporate boards. Things that will affect women in business, that's what we do. We are kind of a networking group, but we're really not. We like to say that we are an advocacy group with an amazing network. So please come and consider joining us, or at least attending one of our meetings to see what we're about. Now back to my sisters. I have two amazing novel sisters that are going to share some tips with you today. The first I'd like to introduce is Maritza Gomez. Maritza is an amazing business owner, and she has an amazing story. If you ever had the opportunity to meet her or have a virtual coffee, I encourage you to do that. The other is LaVon Shields. LaVon is also another fellow amazing women business owner and a novel sister. We've known each other for many years and have grown together and have been there in the peaks and the valleys of life. So it truly is a sisterhood, and I truly hope you enjoy the tips that they bring you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maritza Gomez. I am owner and founder of MG Custom Printing. We are a digital decoration business in the Inland Empire. And what I would like to let you know or give you a business tip is social media. A lot of us are on social media and a lot of us are not. But something that has worked for me, for my company, is being authentic and sharing my entrepreneurial journey with my audience. I feel that I make that connection with other future entrepreneurs and also other business owners. And something that I've learned through NAWBO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, something that we say a lot is people do business with people they know, love, and trust. And again, sharing your story is part of letting people know who you are. My business is mainly on referral basis. You can check out my website, mgcustomprinting.com. Again, it's mainly on referral basis, and it's because of that connection I make with my audience on either Facebook, Instagram. I do a lot of Instagram stories, and a lot of my posts are actually get more traction when I share something personal. You know, people want to know the person behind the brand. It's not always a motivational quote or sell. In a way, us telling our story, we are selling ourselves to our audience. So definitely be authentic, share your story, and let people know who the person behind the brand is.
Hello, everyone. My name is LaVon Shields with Management Consultants of America. We are accounting strategists, and what we do is we help business owners transition into CEOs by teaching them to use their financial reports to build, lead, and grow their business. So my tip for you is how to make things so much easier and audit-proof when it comes to your accounting. So receipts and papers and all that stuff it's got to be piling up and driving you crazy, right? So my suggestion and tip for you is to go paperless. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. Go paperless. So if you pay anything online, print it and save it as a PDF. If you go to the store and they don't give you the option to have the email, the receipt emailed to you, then take out your phone, take a picture of it, and drop it into either your cloud drive or save it onto your camera roll, and then just send that to your tax preparer and accountant. Trust me, they will love it if you give them the backup. So get your bank statements, have all of those digitized and saved into onto your computer as a digital document so that you can send that directly over to your tax person or your accountant. Trust me, when we have backup, it makes it a whole lot easier for us to be able to work with your stuff. And you always have a record of everything. So now you don't have to worry about having buying new filing cabinets and having a pileup of documents and receipts and stuff that are fade and get lost. Scan it, digitize it, take a picture of it, and it will save you so much time and space. So I hope that works for you. LaVon Shields, Management Consultants of America. Thank you.